You better be listening to Sleazoids or I must break you.
Years ago, in this quiet forest, in this cozy cabin, something happened. Something so frightening.
The preview you are about to watch is for a movie that is unlike any you have ever seen before. It is for a movie that goes beyond temporary fear to everlasting terror. It is a movie called Demons. Yes, the demons are coming, and they're coming for you. Warning, if you have the courage to see demons, sit near an exit. Otherwise, you might never get out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sleazoids, the podcast where we go down the rabbit hole of 20th century genre fare, from the most influential canon classics to the trashiest exploitation films we can get our hands on, and invite you to tag along in helping us create a canon of sleaze. Each week is a double feature Grindhouse style where we discuss two films loosely related by subject, genre, actor, filmmaker, or franchise, and at the end of each episode, along with our honorary Sleazoids, which you can become by subscribing on Patreon.
Next week, we are going gritty 90s crime mode, so join that sleaze.
That's right. We decide on all the official ratings and rankings for every film that we cover over there as well. And Patreon subscribers also get an honor shout out and 2 bonus episodes every single month, which we have been doing for so long now. I don't even know how many episodes. It's hundreds and hundreds of episodes, as well as our bonus transmission series where we talk about new release genre films all month long. So if you want to hear any Odyssey talk, that is where you are going to find that soon. So patreon.com/Sleazoids podcast. Once again, if you're interested. And speaking of which, a lot of you were interested this week, so I am going to do this quickly. Tales of Tales signed up for $5 a month. We had I Hate Bill Maher. I respect that name. We had Steve Sherrod. We had Andrew Davis, Cameron Gunn, Locum Denham, Sean Twist, Matthew Stanslovich, James Green, Keith Mitchell, Beckett, Frank Klukas, Meek J. Bird, Sean Conklin, Princess Fiona, who actually signed up for an entire year of the show. Once again, if you are interested in an entire year of the show, you can get a little bit of a monthly discounted rate. We had Richard Wellen signed up, Matthew Min, Blake White, Andrew Dorschner, Young Seven, Brian, Hugh, Lily Connell, Jill Tonica, Andy Scott, who actually signed up at the $10 tier, and he'll be joining us for the monthly virtual screening, which actually by the time you guys are listening to this, we actually would have done Demons 2 actually to coincide with this episode. So thanks to everyone who rolled out for that. A little bit of a late announcement to make, I guess, but thanks so much. Andy's probably there. Christopher Fitzpatrick also signed up, Brick, Rita May, Levy DeLeon, and Samuel Hooper, last but not least, who also signed up actually for $10 a month and will also be joining us for the monthly virtual live stream at the end of the month. So thanks so much to all of you folks. We appreciate the support. Hope you're enjoying all those bonus episodes.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. I'm still laughing about the I Hate Bill Maher name, so shout out.
Shout out, respect. We are saluting you through
Welcome.
The audio form. Welcome. You're welcome here. That is the one plug for the week. The other plug, as always, is Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you are listening on either of those platforms, give us a good old rating and review over there. It helps us climb the ranks and find new listeners. And the last plug, as always, is merch. If you have yet to get your Sleazoids dad cap or our blowout themed graphic t-shirt that sort of looks like a movie poster from the 80s, still designed by our good pal Brandon Lim at Black Belt Cinema. The link is in the description to this episode, as well as over at sleazoidspodcast.com. If you're interested, we still got lots of stock left. But that is it for the intro. Welcome back to another week. As always, I am your host, Josh Lewis, and joining me also, as always, is my co-host,
Jamie Miller. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome. I believe 2 weeks ago would have been the last time you folks over here on the main feed would have heard from us, where we would have had special guest film programmer from Texas, Evan Gordon, on the podcast to do a double feature of surprisingly thoughtful 80s rape revenge thrillers, that quasi-psychological dramas, both set in Dallas. We talked about Tony Garnett's harrowing drama that kind of doubles as a methodical and frank examination of America's fetishistic gun culture in a film called Handgun from 1983, appropriately titled. And then we paired it with Andy Anderson's much more strange and much more cheaply made domestic housewife identity fraud double life drama version called Positive ID from 1986, which taught us how to legitimately commit identity fraud in Texas if we ever so wanted to try such a thing.
Yeah, it's really more focused on the identity fraud and kind of her juggling both identities rather than the revenge element of it all.
Yeah, both women try to find a new person in a rebirth, and one chooses the gun and the other chooses identity fraud.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, far more nuanced and mature than something like Death Wish as well. Which, you know, we are fans in a way as well. But the handgun in particular, I thought was fantastic, the way it tackles the material. So check it out.
And then last week over on the Patreon, for anyone who hasn't heard that episode yet, for the Patreon listeners, we did actually your guys' voted episode, because once every 2 months we let you guys vote on the double features you want to hear us talk about, and then we do the one that gets upvoted the most. And what you guys wanted to hear was a double feature of 90s meta film industry satires. So we talked about Robert Altman's very subversive neo-noir comedy comeback film, The Player, from 1992, and Olivier Assayas's much more dizzyingly postmodern and enigmatic Irma Vep from 1996.
Yeah, The Player has some interesting tonal changes. I mean, for the most part, it plays the satire element pretty strongly, but when it dives into the crime stuff, like the murder sequence, for instance, and everything, it is pretty wild the way he balances that. And Irma Vep, I've been thinking about Irma Vep since we watched it, and I missed.
That's the one that stays. The final minute of it stays in your brain.
yeah. I think I need to rewatch that thing. So yeah, great films.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard that episode, again, patreon.com/Sleazoids podcast. And also, when those episodes go up, that's usually around the time that we have the new nomination period and poll about to go up. So if you haven't yet, go back and make your nomination heard. You can vote on what the next episode is going to be. That is it for all of that. Moving on to this week, we have once again a very special returning guest who's been with us a couple times on the show, but we're very excited to have back anytime he wants to come on. We have Andrew Jupin of We Hate Movies. Andrew, welcome back, man.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. How you doing?
Good.
Great.
Good.
We've missed you ever since. I was actually thinking about you recently just because there's a Supergirl movie out, and the last time we had you on, we talked Superman and Supergirl.
That's
so every time there's a new super property,
right,
it's just like Andrew comes back into our life.
In one way or another. And this not as thematically linked to the DC universe.
No?
But, well, I guess, you know, Demons has a movie theater in it, and I'll be seeing Supergirl in a movie theater. So that's kind of the closest I got. Maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe there's a motorcycle.
I thought the guy who made Cruella had an Evil Dead in him. I don't know.
Is that who it is? I didn't even look that up.
That is who it is.
Actually, I'll tell you what. You get Jason Momoa as Lobo. He's on a motorcycle. There's a cool motorcycle in Demons also.
So true.
You know, there's something here.
Yeah. The tie-in is making sense. But Andrew, welcome back. We're so happy to have you. Part of why you're back is you guys have a show coming up, right?
Yes. So yeah, you guys were gracious enough to have me on, so I could shamelessly plug something cool that me and the guys are doing. This August, we're going out to Vegas. We will be there the 6th, 7th, and 8th as a part of something called STLV. And if your listeners don't know what that is Star Trek Las Vegas. It is the world's biggest, most badass Star Trek convention in the world. And so they're out there every year. This year, they're celebrating 60 years of Star Trek. So we're going out there. We got invited to come out. We're going to celebrate 10 years of our Star Trek recap show, which is called The Nexus, where traditionally we go through episodes of the television show. But every once in a while, we have touched on the movies. So this August, we'll be out there at that convention talking about our 3 favorite Star Trek movies, which is Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek Generations, and Star Trek First Contact.
Oh, so you guys are going to do 3 full-on live show episodes of Star Trek movies.
3
That's crazy.
Full-on, yeah. And, you know, for awesome. Any, like, real Star Trek lovers and traditionalists out there, you know, despite the semi-ironic name of our main podcast, We Hate Movies. We are not going to be trashing Star Trek. It's very much going to be a love fest out there. We're 4 Star Trek nerds. Me, probably the biggest one of the bunch. But yeah, it's going to be really cool. You don't need to be attending the convention to go, because I know that is a little bit prohibitive for folks. It would be prohibitive for me. It's like super expensive to get a con pass, but our stuff is separately ticketed.
Goddamn, I'm imagining just thousands and thousands of Star Trek fans taking over Las Vegas. That's crazy.
It's supposed to be pretty huge. We've never been before. This is our first ever like convention gig that we're doing, so it's going to be like a whole new animal. We're literally playing a theater called the DeForest Kelley Theater, which is very neat. But yeah, all the ticketing stuff is over at whmpodcast.com. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time in the desert this summer.
Cool, that's awesome.
Hell yeah. That sounds really cool. If we have any listeners local or who are interested in Star Trek enough to make the trek, didn't even intend to do that one. You guys should do that. That sounds so awesome. But Andrew, maybe even funnier about the conversation we had, because we talked about that. We also talked about the fact when we were exchanging emails about what we were going to talk about, you were like, hey, so what are we talking about? And I was like, wow, I think Andrew's been on 2 times, and they've been times where we've suggested the movie or been like, hey Andrew, I think you'd be really good for this episode. And I was like, Andrew, the way the show works actually is that you get to pick, man.
which I was totally tickled about. Like I had no notion of that. Like anytime
I had just totally blanked that. I was just like, oh, I had thought of an episode like we want to talk about Superman, and Andrew really likes Superman. He'd be great for that. And I had completely forgotten we had never let you just straight up pick an episode before.
And hilariously, like other guys have been on the show, and like no one has ever said like I picked these movies for Sleazoids. It was like, we're talking about this on Sleazoids, and I was like, that sounds awesome. What a great idea.
No one ever explained it, but that's why I'm stoked about this, because this was an Andrew pick. Yeah. So what 2 films are we talking about today, and why have you paired them together?
So Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2 from 1987 is, I guess, what you would call the A picture of this double feature. And the B picture is Lamberto Bava's Demons from 1985, which is a movie that, you guessed it, has seen the first Evil Dead.
Very true.
So, I think I picked it because, Josh, you had mentioned at least Evil Dead 2 was a movie that was not one that you had covered yet.
No one had picked it. It's kind of crazy. We've been doing the show for 8 years, and not a single guest has said, you know what, my movie of choice is Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. And, I've had Evil Dead on the brain because, like, this new movie's coming out, later this summer or whatever. So I was kind of like, well, let's do this, because I was going to rewatch them anyway.
And also Sam Raimi's back, baby.
Yes.
Oh, God, that's send help.
It's awesome.
I loved that movie.
Me too.
Oh, man. That movie that a fella wrote into our show to say because the 4 of us had enjoyed that movie, he could no longer trust us and was no longer listening to the podcast.
That's
incredible.
And I was like, dude, just go take them socks off, go step out on the lawn, brother. I don't know what to tell you there, but you got to touch some grass.
Would you say, like, there's got to be one that you would even say might have pissed off your audience prior to you releasing it, and that couldn't have been the one you were guessing?
Absolutely. If someone was like, I stopped listening to your show because of a movie that you liked and I did not, like that, usually it's the other way around. It's like we trash something that someone likes, and they're like, hey man, Batman versus Superman is my entire life identity. How dare you?
Which is like, you enjoy something.
Yeah. So the opposite of that was really weird. Like I got mad at you guys for liking a movie, and we could only gather that it's like, because this fella, definitely a dude, watched the movie and was like, this is just a woman doing stuff. It's boring, How dare she get the upper hand on that guy?
Canadians would never.
Donald
Rachel
Brown's
McAdams is a legend to us.
Oh, yeah, yes. Canadian royalty up there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Specifically London, Ontario, which is where this podcast was born.
Ooh, local gal.
Yeah, her and Mr. Gosling. Those are our 2 claims.
Oh shit!
We got 2 heavy hitters right there.
Yeah, that's a handsome claim to fame right there.
But yeah, no, very, very stoked about this double feature, because we did Evil Dead finally, just for the first time a few years ago. I don't remember why we were finally inspired to do it, and it opened up the idea that, hey, we should do more Sam Raimi at some point. And then Demons, actually, one of the first ever live streams we did for the show. Jamie and I had never seen it, so we both did it sight unseen because we heard it was just fun to watch with people, and it had the meta theater component, and a lot of our listeners really enjoyed that live stream. So I think for Jamie, this was, I think, both of our first times going back to it since like probably the first year of the show, right?
Yeah,
around there.
Well, for me, Evil Dead 2, I think I've seen a couple times. I actually watched it last Halloween. So I have been watching that one quite a bit, but Demons I hadn't seen since we watched it live with the audience. So it was awesome to rewatch it because I liked it even more this time around.
Yeah, I actually forgot how much I enjoyed it. I didn't remember some of the. I forgot some of the best.
It just moves.
The best beats that it has going on. But I do love this pairing mostly because the first Evil Dead, especially, I remember when we covered it, I was like, this is like an American making a nonsensical Italian horror film. Evil Dead makes a lot of sense to pair with an actual Italian horror. I feel like Italians were the ones who maybe understood Evil Dead the most and what it was trying to do. They were just like, Sam Raimi, you don't use enough neon gel lights. That's the one thing we would add, and we would throw metal music in if you could.
Yeah, totally. Which is a question about the metal in Demons, because there is an opening title card that's like, music by whomever, and then it says like additional music by, and it lists all these bands, and part of me was like, are we licensing this stuff, or is this just like, hey, we'll credit them and then like see if anybody comes after us? Because there's a couple, like there's like a Motley Crue tune. Not all of these bands are heavy hitters, but there's some that I was like, does Motley Crue know that they're in the film Demons?
Oh, we will get into this. I don't know the full story of that specific film, but I do know, and we've talked about this before, that Dario Argento went through a phase where he was just like, I'm not going to use Goblin anymore. I'm going to use like Iron American Maiden. Rock bands to like appeal. Yeah, Phenomena is filled with like Iron Maiden and stuff.
That's right.
So
yeah.
That was like a weird phase that he was in, and Phenomena came out the same year. So I think there was just like a weird like 3 or 4 year period where Argento was like, prog rock is dead, 80s American metal is in, let's fucking go.
It was awesome. What a time to be alive.
So
I wasn't, but awesome.
Yeah, Demons is definitely a symptom of that. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into this here. So let's do it. Let's kick things off. We're going to go A picture, B picture for sure here, and the more popular of the two, the one that you would be going to the drive-in for sure, and you'd be hopefully sticking around for the second one. But the first one would always be Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
All right, we are talking Evil Dead 2, the 1987 supernatural slapstick-splatter horror comedy written and directed by Sam Raimi, co-written by Scott Spiegel, and starring Bruce Campbell, once again as Ash Williams, a university student who travels to a remote cabin in the woods with his girlfriend Linda for a romantic weekend getaway, accidentally reads from the Necronomicon, or the Book of the Dead, and summons a bunch of grisly, disgusting deadites, and manic, gory craziness ensues. That might sound like a suspiciously familiar setup. And yes, that is because I'm sure everyone listening to this who is aware of what Evil Dead 2 is, it will just get it out of the way right out front. It is famously or infamously not really a sequel to Sam Raimi's 1981 debut, The Evil Dead, but it is essentially a remake with an actual budget and professional crew to make a more sort of controlled and realized version of a fairly similar movie. And this is only our third time actually talking about Sam Raimi, the Michigan-born filmmaker who got started as a filmmaker, as we talked about with Evil Dead, how most start a punk rock band, just making Super 8 films in the 70s with his teenage friends from early childhood, including one you now know the name of, Bruce Campbell, starting obviously their career-long working relationship, where even if he is not the lead, you can expect him at some point to appear in the movie. And eventually, obviously, through Evil Dead and the entire franchise and Army of Darkness, everything, pioneered this just incredibly delirious and animated visual style that is part like old school slapstick physical comedy, part comic book caricature and exaggeration, which is how he got the gig doing so many comic book movies at a certain point, including the Spider-Man movies, and also just classic monster movie horror and full-on Italian surreal and gory body horror. He mixes all of those things together. And as we talked about with Evil Dead, what we love so much about him is just that there's very few filmmakers who have as much fun and freedom with what they're doing with the camera as Sam Raimi does. Even when we talked about Quick and the Dead, we were like, this is like the same iconography you've seen in other Western films and other spaghetti Westerns and all of this, but like Sam Raimi doesn't believe there is rules on where the camera should be and how a cut should work. He just fucking goes for it and has so much fun.
Often the camera seems to represent an object that it's attached to in some way. Like very often does he do that. And it does create this kind of more animated style. Like, you know, for instance, when an eyeball flies across the room and goes into somebody's mouth, at one point we do have a point of view of the eyeball flying across the room. There's the famous camera work where it's the actual demon, you know, speeding through the forest itself and breaking down doors and everything. What's cool though is he does use the old school imagery of just creepy dead trees and fog, but then mixes the new, at least at the time, 80s stuff of X-rated gore and you know, highly suggestive imagery. Like eventually we have a demon with both her giant boobs out and just slashing at a woman and stuff. Like, you know, it's so over the top, but he still kind of has a little bit of that creepy old school vibe. Even at the beginning when they're going through the tunnel and crossing the bridge and they have the miniature work in order to establish that, so that later on they can also have the broken bridge imagery. Yeah, his mixture of things is very cool.
It's just so nice seeing like tactile filmmaking, you know, especially nowadays, like almost everything is computer. So just to see like really charming stuff like the covered bridge miniature. There's moments where when the trees are like the whole forest is basically attacking the cabin and it's like model work on a table and you can tell, and it doesn't matter because it's all part of the charm. Like what I love about especially early Sam Raimi stuff, like, you know, this movie, the one before it, you can tell they're made by people that are loving making the movie, even if it's like, you know, and both of these two original productions had a lot of trouble, you know, one way or the other.
I was going to jump in and be like, I don't know how many people had a lot of fun on the original Evil Dead set, unfortunately, but Sam Raimi did, I'm sure, torturing all of his friends.
I guess maybe not fun, but it is like a love of movies in a way that you sort of that movie is only
made because a bunch of passionate kids were like, I'm willing to suffer to make this what it is.
And so that kind of like love and that kind of enjoyment of movies, this one in particular, I was just thinking about that today, like you can just feel it. You're like, they love movies, they love that this was the movie that they got to make, you know, and it's very charming, even though it is some of the most disgusting stuff you'll see, which is also great. It is this high wire act, you know, not just horror and comedy, but like, you know, nice kind of stuff and some of the most horrible stuff you've ever seen in your life, you know. So it's really brilliant.
That's what's really interesting about Evil Dead 2, because we talked about the original Evil Dead, and I think Jamie and I were both kind of in agreement that it's like basically one of the best possible cases you could have for a movie being made by a bunch of kids who just took a 16mm camera into the woods and literally arduously tortured the cast and crew and attempt to, you know, make something upsetting and unsettling, and it totally works. Like it's such a rough, frantic, like lo-fi, grimy movie with so much gross out imagination and dizzying visual invention. There's like a go for broke scrappiness to it that it's like it's essentially trying to be like the micro budget version of like elements of The Exorcist are in there with like the gross demonic bodily possession stuff, the Shining with the creepy voyeuristic roaming camera work, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Living Dead obviously for the single location, and you know, the reanimated horror and all that kind of stuff. And what we were talking about with the case of that was how effectively nasty that movie feels. Like it feels unpleasant, and it's interesting to then go and make the refined version, because I think you're totally right. Like this movie feels like is objectively has horrible things that happen in it that are stuff that reminds you of the first film, but like the tonal switch and the refinement that he does to try to make this, I think, a little bit more appealing or a little bit more of almost like a pop enjoyable film while still being disgusting is pretty impressive. It's something that like you can't imagine working. Like you would feel like that the tonal tightrope you have to walk of being like, well, this is like slapstick fun and I'm hanging out with my buddy Ash, and then suddenly you're like,
yeah. Also, like Bruce Campbell having to do that balancing act. Not that, like, I think he's great in the first one because he does have to take kind of a turn from a weaker to stronger character, but the way that he has to just lose his mind in this and balance both the kind of hunky romantic lead in a way at the beginning with his girlfriend that turns very quickly, and then as he goes insane he becomes more of the action hero and has that confidence, and there's a bunch of zoom-ins on his face as he does one-liners and everything, and just watching him balance that as well is very impressive, and kind of a big difference between the first movie and the second movie, which the first movie, obviously because it's so torturous with how the demons act and how they're always like taunting everyone and everything, there's a bit of a dark humor to it, but a lot of it is still delivering pain to these characters, whereas this one
has
like
more actual gags.
Yeah, there's
like
actual
this one
gags. He's falling down a lot over himself and just hitting his head. He's losing body parts. But
you gotta respect anyone who has like the build of a jock and a huge jawline like that, being like, I am totally willing to play the fool and just get like covered in dirt and goop and be wide-eyed and do slapstick shit that like fucking Buster Keaton would do, but eventually still getting to do the action hero-y stuff of getting his shirt ripped and delivering the one-liners as you've been highlighting. But there's something to be said about a guy who looks like this on screen, who was didn't have the ego to be like, I will only ever be the strong guy in a movie. I'm willing to be a wimp or a coward or shocked and scared the way a final girl is, and totally that's Bruce Campbell's appeal and throughout this entire franchise.
He was even talking about it kind of in an interview I was watching on the bonus features of the Blu-ray I have, where he was like in this situation where you're dealing with this crazy looking demon where at a certain point the neck is 10 feet long and the head is 2 times the size of Bruce Campbell's and everything, and he's just sitting there like, well,
shout
how
out Greg,
do you
Greg Nick Nicotero and Robert Kurtzman, who are the stop motion and prosthetic effects guys on this movie. This is basically a showcase for their work.
It's incredible. It's incredible stuff. And Bruce Campbell's even saying like, how do you act in this moment? You might as well just have to kind of go for it and throw yourself
into this. My scene partner is what? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, you just have to throw yourself into it, kind of thing. And so it does feel like, even though there's more planning in this, there is a little bit of finding it along the way, at least on Bruce Campbell's part. And not in any bad sense. I think that he's just willing to try so many things, and he does all of them flawlessly.
I think it's also important to point out, like, a lot of this movie is him by himself.
Yeah.
Like in that first movie, he's with other people the entire time.
True.
This movie, it's like the first 7 minutes or so when we do like previously on Evil Dead and you do the catch up, he's with Linda, sure. But then like, it's something like a full 30 minutes of him alone before the rest of the people reach the cabin.
Which I want to also say, I think is the best 30 minutes of the movie. I think there's lots of good stuff as the movie goes on, but I think that 30-minute stretch you're talking about, where it is just Bruce Campbell versus demonic cabin fucking with him, and like, I think that's up there with the best stretch of movie making Sam Raimi's ever done. Like, to keep that consistently inventive, to escape one situation and come up with another one, and for Bruce Campbell to just be acting alongside puppetry and production design, and for it to feel like you're not, for a second, you're not even bored. It's actually when the other actors show up is maybe the one part of the movie where I go, oh, okay, they're fine. But the Bruce Campbell,
the rest of the funny stuff kind of slows down in a way. Like in the scenes with him in the hand are some of the funniest scenes that Sam Raimi's ever directed in his entire career. It's good.
Yeah, they're incredible. Like, and I would imagine I think that's Bruce Campbell's actual hand in makeup, and he's working it. But the way that he physically moves, where he's knocked out and the hand is still moving, it just looks so uncanny. It looks the physical gag of it all is fantastic, and the performance is really good. And even in the beginning when he's with Linda before she turns, which happens so quickly, which is awesome as well. Like they don't spend
They
any
get the
time.
setup out of the way. I literally brought the stopwatch out. I was like, it's 5 minutes in. It's 5 minutes in, and we're already like, look, they've already given you the Necronomicon exposition. They've already done the classic mistake number 1, which is done very humorously with the what's on the tape recorder. Play the haunted tape recorder.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
they're like, get through all the things you already know we need to set up. We'll get to what Raimi wants to do now with this
giving you enough
sequel.
context if you didn't see the first one, but basically doing a speed run of the developments of the first one, of like how they find the cabin, how they unlock, how it's actually it reads the Book of the Dead out loud, and giving us the possessed camera, the shaky wide angle Evil Dead cam that everyone knows and loves already, and basically being like, oh, it breaks through the window. It's in Linda. Linda's already a prosthetic that he needs to decapitate and tries to bury her. Her body is already breaking its way out and of the ground and doing like a dance and all kinds of weird shit that it's doing.
I like too that it establishes the new tone we're going to take, even with Bruce Campbell's character, where he, even before it turns into the horror movie and they're trying to doing the like pseudo romantic thing, where they exaggeratedly zoom in on his face before he does like a what do you say we have some champagne, baby, huh? And the way he says it is he's moving his jaw very cartoonishly. He's got his eyebrows moving, so right away that you're in for more of a satirical thing. But then again, right away he switches into the horror by having Linda change, and it's she's getting her head decapitated with a shovel. The head is in his lap at a certain point, laughing at him. Like we start all the horror Evil Dead stuff. It's just it feels a little bit more slapstick, like we were saying earlier, and also the mix of, like we were talking about, how it's technically not a sequel, but I do find it interesting to have that one shot where the demon goes through the house and grabs him, and then he
replicates the final shot of the Evil Dead really early on and kind of goes, okay, now if you've seen the first Evil Dead, imagine that stuff's already happened and now we're doing more stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I will say the situation he comes up with is similar to what he does with the rest of the other film anyway.
I'll admit that too. And I will say, when I was rewatching it this time, I've always been back and forth with whether or not I think this is an absolute masterpiece and I just love it. Not that it really matters. It's just this in particular, and I think that you guys were basically saying this before, the group dynamic of cutting back and forth from Bruce Campbell to the group at first can be a little bit annoying, in the sense that you're just stalling the momentum that you're building with Bruce Campbell. But I do like the idea as it goes on of them eventually getting there, because I know these demons are relentless. And now we just have more bodies to have fun with.
At a certain point, they wrote themselves into the corner of, they need more bodies to get possessed so that, Bruce Campbell's not just fighting the house the entire time.
Which I could easily watch for 80 minutes. I bet that would have been amazing. It's just that I do still enjoy the gags he comes up with once they get to the house, and he has to kind of have that dynamic with people again. It's... then you can also lead to evil Ash at a certain point. We'll get to all of it. It's just, it still leads to things that I really love. So even though
Andrew, you got to join us for the most fun conversation we ever get to have, which is which one is better? Which one do you like more?
Yeah,
I think
I
I
a lot of
like the
listeners
first one more.
mad at you.
It's no, I was thinking about it today. When we talk about these instances, we always reference that scene in Scream 2 where Timothy Olyphant's film school characters
goes off about sequels.
Yes, because they're having that whole sequel conversation. Is there a sequel that's better than the original? And he, very coolly raises his finger and says, "I got it, by the way. The Godfather Part 2." And the whole class goes, "Oh!" And they're all blown the fuck away that this guy saw The Godfather 2. But anyway, I think this movie's kind of the Godfather 2 of horror movies. I like the first one just fine, but there's just a little more meat on this bone, little more fun story. I'm a big slapstick guy, love physical comedy, so like that just it wins me over every time. I didn't used to be this way. I used to be a 1, 2, 3.
I've gone back and forth in because The Evil Dead was the first one that I watched, and when I watched the second one for the first time, I had a really good time with it, but I was surprised at how much I was like, oh, it's very similar. It's like, other than tonally, it's almost the same movie, and now I understand production wise why that happened, because he did go to Dino, and he did, from what I understand, Sam Raimi, because he did this right after Crime Wave, which was a very disappointing experience for him and disappointing experience for anyone who watched it in 1985. He was understood that like this was something he really wanted to do, and how he would have done this with more money, but his pitch was actually Army of Darkness. Like that was what he that was the sequel. That was Evil Dead 2 in his mind. That was what he pitched Dino De Laurentiis on. And instead they said, no, that's really fucking weird. And we wanted more Evil Dead. So, you know, he kind of compromised with this a bit. But in terms of a director compromising and being like, I am going to remake my movie because the producer said so, it's such a technical improvement in almost every level. And the tonal change is really, really well handled, from lo-fi horror to this more polished, you know, slapstick splatter comedy thing that he's doing. And so I've kind of grown to be, the distinction for me is very similar to like Terminator and Terminator 2 for me. Like they're different movies with different things that work about them, even if there's always a part of me that loves the lo-fi horror. The more unsettling, nasty one is always going to appeal just a tiny bit more to my specific sensibility. But I totally understand why. I've read a lot of people go, the first movie is kind of a proof of concept for what this is, and this is more of what Raimi eventually actually became. Like this was fully realized what Raimi wanted to be if he had resources. So I totally see that argument.
Yeah, I think for me it is the first one I also prefer, but both of them, for me it's like I live in this world where I get to have both movies that are, you know, the same story but done in such different ways by the same director that it feels like I haven't seen anything else like that since, really.
Jamie's just like, more for me.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, exactly. I'm I get to watch Evil Dead twice.
What a problem to have.
Yeah, it's like Evil Dead twice, and they are legitimately different films. It's just, I know at the same time there's a familiarity, so it's comforting in a way. I mean, I just love going back and forth between these two movies. I will say there's some differences that maybe I would like to see carry over to this second one, which is why I like the first one better. Like the relentlessness of the demons that you feel in the first one, I think is a little bit better, more captured in the first one, specifically with the rules that they have to follow. I remember even in our discussion of the first Evil Dead, they set up these rules like after a certain amount of passages you recite, you know, they will lose their powers or whatever. But once they do that, it's like the demons don't even listen, and those rules were just set up as kind of like fake outs, and it makes them feel like the humans are completely powerless to the demons. Whereas this one tries to give you a little bit more, at least it feels like it, a little bit more backstory and a little bit more exposition so that they can get on to the next sequence of events in the third one. I don't know. I just don't necessarily need it, I suppose. But I like that both exist.
I know what you mean. There's a very punk, amateur unpredictability to the first one, where they're just kind of like, it's like stream of consciousness, and they didn't
he's
really
coming up with things a day before. You know what I mean?
And there's a simplicity to that. There's a purity to like they could only do it because of the conditions they were making it under. And whereas this tries to make a little bit more sense, and I don't know that I need the Evil Dead to make more sense. I find it being nonsensical is kind of what's scary about it.
I feel
but at the same time, this still has a incredibly surreal quality to it, even though it's trying to explain itself and make itself again. I feel like it's an attempt to make it more friendly, which is something either you think is a quality that makes it lesser, or it's a quality that makes it better. I think depending on, you know, it's just I think it's just a preference thing.
Yeah, and it is wild too, because like when we're saying friendly, we are still talking about one of the most relentless films ever. It's just like
that's exactly what I mean.
Right.
Like
It's
it's the friendlier, more accessible version of one of the grossest fucking disgusting
Yeah,
movies
so
you've ever seen.
It's still got its X rating and everything. You know what I mean? It's like
only psychopaths would be having the debate on which one is more friendly or accessible.
yeah, exactly.
I think it is just like what you're in the. You keep saying punk rock, Josh, and I think that's right. It just depends upon what you're in the mood for listening to. Do you want to listen to
Right.
a 90-second 3-chord tune, right? Or do you want to listen to a 3.5-minute 5-chord thing with a bridge and maybe there's a fucking synthesizer solo in it? You know what I mean? Just a little more like a beefier version of the
One
same
was a
tune.
studio recording, one was in someone's garage where they were
Exactly.
thrashing
Yep.
around.
Yep, totally.
The first one is the demo version, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah,
and
yeah,
sometimes a demo captures that kind of that electricity and magic you can't
For sure.
from something that's so polished. And they even talk about it in the behind the scenes that this one was far more planned out. They're not doing things like Sam Raimi coming up with a whole sequence the night before on 2 hours of sleep. That's not happening. So
No, and you can feel it, like the sense of control that this has, again, especially in that section of, again, Bruce Campbell versus playfully violent Cabin just fucking with him, which for me, again, is like Sam Raimi incorporating more of his love of like silent era comedy and like the Stooges. He's a huge Stooges guy, obviously. So seeing him get to put that part of himself that's very personal and bring it into the splatter movie, 80s, as if, like the Stooges, it's dragging it in, kicking and screaming, essentially. And it's so contained, it's so claustrophobic, and comes up with just so many athletic and inventive ways for Raimi to torture Bruce Campbell. It is just fantastic. Like, whether it's like, it starts with that invisible force playing the piano as he's mourning Linda. Then it goes into the stop motion reanimated corpse of her coming alive and dancing to it and trying to bash her floating head against every object in the cabin as it tries to like chew his hand off.
That
like,
is the funniest part.
The comedy of him flailing, the sound design of the head being like and then laughing and trying to like bite him and all this shit. It's fantastic. And the second you think, oh, what a great set piece, that's got to be it.
Yep.
It's just like, no, haunted rocking chair, mirror Ash leaping out of the mirror and taunting and choking him, which is an incredible effect. And then it's like his hand being infected by the bite and turning against him. So then he's got to obviously chop it off. And like, it's just, it keeps going and going. And every single time you think it's run out of steam or gas in some capacity, it's like, nope, we've got a whole nother section to this. But yeah, the bit where Bruce Campbell's just smashing this demonic head into objects in the cabin, being like, get the fuck off.
I also love all the added effects that they can do, like the sequence where he gets pulled. It's basically when they break from the first movie to the second movie, where he gets pulled into the trees, and it's almost like a green screen or projection of some kind that he's flying through. And then they drop him in the big puddle and he becomes a demon. And there's this awesome effect where they do a big close up of his eye and the smoke that's coming back into the trees from the demonic
turning his
force.
jawline demonic makes him have just like such a massive head.
It reminds me of the Mask villain.
Yeah.
A little bit, and I love the fog coming out of his
what's that
eye. It's
actor?
awesome. I can't remember his
Peter
name.
Green.
Is that who
From
I'm
The
thinking
Mask?
of? Like the guy who had just like a crazy big.
Yeah.
I was thinking a little bit of Robert Davi too. It makes him look like Robert Davi.
Yeah, Robert Davi. Are you thinking of Robert Zedar, Maniac Cop? That guy had a pronounced.
That's what I'm thinking of.
for
Thank
sure.
you. I knew Andrew had it in his brain somewhere.
That was the chin of all chins. That guy, Jay Leno, eat your heart out.
That's what he looked like.
Totally, that is 100% accurate.
What I thought about this time around, because I had not rewatched this movie since I regretfully watched this thing I'm about to tell you about. Are you aware of a movie called Stealing Pulp Fiction?
I don't think I am.
No, I
What
don't
is
think
that?
so.
Okay, it's one of the worst things you'll ever set your eyes upon. It's an indie comedy, loosest sense of the word, where some losers, for one reason or another, they're trying to steal Quentin Tarantino's personal 35 millimeter print of Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
Jason Alexander's in it. It's fucking terrible. But all is to say, at the end of the movie, there was a guy playing Quentin Tarantino, and when I thought of it because Bruce Campbell with the demon makeup kind of just looks like this guy who's made up to look like QT. But my God, the fucking Tarantino impression that this guy is doing, it is just, it was like I was watching a horror movie and I had to like watch it through my fingers. It's so bad. And I don't recommend watching the movie at all, but if you can find a clip of this guy portraying Quentin Tarantino like on YouTube.
He's like the backrooms version of Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, dude, there's a fucking lawn chair sticking out of his back for some reason. Yeah, exactly.
Half of his face is melted, yeah.
He's got a pirate leg. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Goddamn. No, the upgrade in like just professional makeup effects and stuff being done for sure is like just undeniable. Like some of the greatest of the 1980s.
The puppetry is amazing. We were just talking about that work shed scene where he's got the head and the clamps and everything, and at one point the body comes in to help save the head, and it's instead of like a person in some like costume that would hide the head or something like that, they just have this big human-sized puppet that they're like frantically moving around, and it just makes it seem so there is kind of like a fake uncanniness to it, but because of the frantic nature of it all, it feels so chaotic that you're kind of buying into the fact that Bruce Campbell has no idea what's going on, or Ash has no idea what's going on. And
I mean that has two of my favorite shots in the whole film, that section you're talking about there, which is right after the headless body runs into the room and he makes it chainsaw itself in like a great bit of like slapstick comedy. That's obviously disgusting. But then the two shots, the silhouetted shot of him in the cabin taking the chainsaw through Linda's possessed head, and the blood from it then obviously going everywhere, but specifically hitting the dangling light bulb inside the cabin and turning the whole room red with the lighting. Like again, like that is just someone who is thinking in such a a stark visual manner, and like that to me screams like more time to storyboard, more time to figure out how these were actually, what these sequences were going to look like. And I mean, I think that's like such a huge appeal of this specific movie, is you're watching someone who made such an uncontrolled, sort of like went through a haphazard production and came up with something amazing, is now being able to be like, what if I could actually plan this stuff out? And it looks beautiful as well as disgusting.
Yeah,
exactly.
He'll have even like big production design kind of shots where as Ash is fighting himself because the hand has taken over, the demonic hand has taken over, they have a big zoom out outside where it almost feels like they've set up these kind of spotlights or something inside the house, so it does these big light shines through the windows as it zooms out. And it just, I don't know, there's just a bunch of stuff that you can tell he's elevated and thought about to really create this kind of supernatural location. And
I love that he gives the little hand the little voice, it's like struggling and like making noises, like
yes,
gotta kiss
totally.
across the room.
Yeah. So good. The shadow play thing is awesome. I feel like Raimi may have used it other places, but it was on my mind because just recently we recorded an episode of another one of our side shows, We Love Movies, all about Raimi's Spider-Man 2. And there's the really horrific sequence in that movie where after
with Doc Ock,
the Doc Ock attack, and they take him to the hospital, and the arms go crazy, and they just fucking go ham on all the doctors. There's one of those moments is a totally silhouetted wall where the arm comes in and this woman lets out a 1950s horror movie scream, and it's all in silhouette, and you're like, man, like this guy has had a thing from the jump. Like this guy has known what he likes to put in his movies. It's in that way, it is like, put him up there with like Christopher Nolan, like as a director who just knew from the jump like how he wanted to make movies and how he thought his movies should look and move. Like to go from Evil Dead 2 to Spider-Man 2 and have like these kinds of connections still and have it work in a big budget, blockbuster like that is
that
just
especially
brilliant.
That's such a great pull, because I watched Spider-Man 2 as a kid. The first two Spider-Mans were definitely the movies I would have watched of Sam Raimi, not even knowing who Sam Raimi was, but that scene in particular freaked me out as a kid. And when I watched it, I definitely was one of the earliest examples of me realizing that like, oh, like people make these things. Like these are choices that I've not seen in a film before.
Right.
Because I was probably just watching kids movies or superhero movies or whatever. And like that scene in particular, I was like, Spider-Man 2, the fact that it suddenly feels like a PG Evil Dead movie for like just 5 minutes. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Totally,
terrifying.
dude. It's awesome.
Another thing I grew up on was the Addams Family. They had some, I think it was some television show on the Family Channel or something. I can't exactly remember, but I think it's called The Thing, where it has the hand that crawls around. So every time I think about that, every time I see this film where he starts to attack the hand, and then there's even moments where the hand starts to like creep around in the background. And in the Addams Family, obviously,
when he tries to cover it with the bucket, and just the wide shot, and you can see the bucket slowly sliding across the room while he's not looking at it.
Exactly. And in Addams Family, obviously, it's more tongue in cheek, and they're supposed to be kind of almost misunderstood or whatever. So the hand is more of a sweet entity. So to watch it just stab people in the back repeatedly or try to cut Bruce Campbell's head off or anything like that it tickles me.
Yeah, I mean that leads to the fantastic section where it's like he ends up the shotgun in one hand, the stump in the other hand, fighting this hand off, and there's those great point of view shots of him aiming the shotgun down lens.
Yeah.
And he's trying to shoot the hand like it's like a mouse scurrying around the cabin, like it's just this annoying thing.
Turns into a mousetrap for a minute.
Yeah, it gets hit by a mousetrap at one point, but also there's a part where he thinks he's hit it because he just bursts a hole right through the fucking cabin.
Right.
And then it starts gushing blood at him like a geyser, which is the first of many times he will get covered in blood or goo or whatever. But it's so fantastically, I think, countered or contradicted by the production design of like the Home Sweet Home sign, or like the fact that there's like the mountain deer head and the lamp and the books that all start maniacally laughing at him. And it's one of my, again, this is sort of where it wraps up what is my favorite section of the movie, because this is the moment, I think, where if there is a thematic arc to this one that's maybe even a little different or more expanded on than it is in the original film, it's that Bruce Campbell, because it's the big shot where he gets to finally like look into the camera and go crazy, and he's bug-eyed, he's manic, he's laughing, all this stuff. And it's because it's just like the Sam Raimi Evil Dead world makes no sense. What the fuck is happening? And it's so cartoonish and disgusting. And it's like all of a sudden this guy's like, I need to become a vulgar cartoon.
Yeah, I need to embrace
in order.
it.
Dude, if you can't beat him, join him. Like, seriously.
Yes.
Yeah. Because he's even kind of getting there as he's trying to shoot the hand. Because there's another moment where he gets frustrated before the blood geyser happens, where he misses or he thinks he hits it. And then the hand comes out of the hole and flips him off. And it frustrates him.
Finger,
So it's like, it does make him, kind of get into that zone of the Looney Tunes world that he's now in, except it's going to be X-rated.
It's literally like a Tom
everywhere.
and Jerry bit, but in like a R-rated.
Yeah.
I've always loved that
gore
gag
movie.
because, like, here's a hand that's, we're told, is possessed by an ancient Kandarian demon. How does that guy know what giving the finger is?
Yeah. It's funny to think, like, with thousands of years, even if they're demons, you'd think there'd be like some wisdom that they acquired.
But-
and still they're just like, fuck you.
Just crude demons. And also the hand, we mentioned the hand with the mousetrap. It's in like a little, like those very cartoonish mouse holes that, in the floorboards. Yes. And I just love thinking like the hand's just got like a little apartment inside the cabin. And that's just like where it's hanging. He's got a little bed in there.
What's that 90s movie, Mouse Hunt?
Yes.
I think we've covered that too, right? That's what I was thinking about. Like literally, like imagine the hand has like a little bed. He's got like a little, little
exactly.
cotton ball set up going on.
Oh man. Yeah. It's I also like this is where Raimi really starts to he's like tilts the camera and starts to spin it around Bruce Campbell as he's laughing, and in the background you can see all of the animatronic objects moving with him and kind of laughing. It really does.
It's a crazy shot. Shout out Peter Deming, by the way, who this was, I think, his first time being upgraded from I think a cameraman to a cinematographer. I think this is the first movie he ever shot.
Whoa!
This was the guy who went on to work with Wes Craven and David Lynch. This guy shot Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and Twin Peaks: The Return.
Ooh,
Oh,
wow!
that's crazy.
That is a talent and a half we have here shooting Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
That's
Peter
incredible.
Deming, incredible cinematographer, and yeah, I couldn't totally. I'm sure there might have been a special feature that I just missed, but like I couldn't find like how he knew Sam Raimi and like what it was that like got, because like it's crazy for this to be like the first movie you ever are officially accredited DOP on.
Yeah, it would in a
'cause-
sense. It's got to be nice too that you're working with someone like Raimi that's gonna pretty much force you to do a bunch of different things, a ton of different techniques, and even strange things that a more conventional film is not going to have you do.
Yeah, I
he
mean,
also
like
shot
your first.
Species, Austin Powers,
Oh.
International Man of Mystery, Scream
yeah.
2 and 3,
Let's go.
It's wild
everyone's
that your
favorite,
first,
The Love Guru.
Oh Jesus!
Yes.
And a Mariska Hargitay to you all.
That's a you, Peter
Celine.
Deming.
Good Lord.
Evil Dead 2, Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, Forever Pass. I don't care that you shoot Now You See Me Too, and
Yeah, whatever.
just looking at all these movies
There's
now.
been so many fives, it's insane.
That is wild though, thinking like your first assignment as a DP, part of that was you had to work on the orchestration of the amazing sequence of the demon chasing Campbell through just this maze of a cabin set, and like sometimes the doors fall down, sometimes they open, sometimes Bruce Campbell jumps through them, and obviously there's some very like not super well hidden cutting going through here, but just the fact that like there are long stretches where you're seeing some really complicated maneuvers happening with that
absolutely.
camera. It's unreal.
Yeah, like there's one shot that I really love when it's a POV of the demon going through, and it just goes through the windshield of the car. I think both of them actually, and then continues into the cabin. It's just crazy, the choreography and the timing they'd have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam Raimi really just did believe that like the camera doesn't need to be tethered to anything, and
Yeah.
it could be a third, a presence or a character, and it could just do whatever the fuck you want it to do.
Even when the group
and that's one thing to like think that, or like and then to actually orchestrate it on a set with people and
Right.
be like, how does a camera guy literally do that though? I don't know.
yeah, even when the group dynamic comes into play and it gets a slightly more I don't know, conventional for a little while until the demons start attacking them again, he still finds ways of making it interesting. Like they tackle Ash because they think that he's murdered their family because they see all the blood and the shotgun and everything like that.
Yeah, because it's the daughter of the archaeologist professor
Yes.
who uncovered
Yes.
the book. She's looking for her father, and they go, this crazy dude covered in blood and goop clearly did something to my dad.
Yeah. And so they have moments where they like tackle him and they start even beating him up for a moment. They start kicking him in the face, and the camera will go down to Bruce Campbell as he's like turning his head because he gets kicked. And so you can see his reaction close up, and then they cut back to a more normal angle of the group actually figuring out what's going on. So I still like that he's able to bring a little bit more of his Looney Tunes direction in those more conventional moments.
It is
Well,
also
and
just
again-
really funny watching him get his ass kicked by these people.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
He's really
That's exactly
selling
what I
it.
was going to say. Great point.
After
it's
he's
just
been
a
battling
good joke.
demons for 30 minutes. Yeah.
Like 30 minutes of like just like surreal supernatural ass kicking going on, and then
Yep.
suddenly just like 4 random people show up and just gang beat him and throw him in the cellar.
Yeah.
They're like, who the fuck is that guy?
And then they start listening to the tapes, which is going to cause a bunch more problems.
Them
Of course,
listening to the
even-
tape is very funny though.
Yeah.
when the daughter turns it on, because it's after the reading, and it's just this Professor Nobi, her father, being like, okay, things are not going so hot for Professor Nobi and his wife. And you're like, oh man.
Yeah, does he start saying he's like, I had to lock my wife in the cellar? And that's where we start to get the
I will say, I think that's my favorite use, because there's a bunch of exposition early on in this film, and some of it is very much like, oh, we just want to help the people who didn't see the first film, and
Right.
you know, like that. And there's a little bit of like a producer's note into it that feels a bit. This is the one where it's really intensely and well used, because he didn't finish listening to it. They listened to it. And it leads to the escalation of, oh, we just locked him in the cellar as the guy is explaining he had to bury his wife in the fruit cellar. And so like that's a fantastic reveal of then Ted Raimi, of course, who's also in a lot of Sam Raimi movies for being his brother. He's the one who pops out as the wife, Henrietta, in this like gross, bloated corpse prosthetic, and is the one who's been like, I'll swallow your soul, and like all this kind, and you know, and they
And what
it's a fantastic effect.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I was gonna say, he in the fat suit, Ted Raimi looks like fucking Baron Harkonnen from Dune.
Yes.
Like specifically the Lynch dude, because that guy was grosser. Stellan's a little more streamlined in the Villeneuve ones, but just disgusting, this fat suit that he's in. I do like also when they lock him in the cellar, there is a cool shot that is, I think, supposed to mimic the first movie. I think even maybe some of the marketing material, the way the like door is up with the arm and the way Bruce Campbell's head is facing, it looks like it's mirroring some of the basement shots from the first movie, which I thought was a nice little call.
Yeah, when they lock her down there and she's doing her little exorcist routine of being like, let me out.
I think maybe that's that movie's Linda, I think maybe is the character who's down there. Yeah.
And that's what I also like too is while they're doing that, kind of referencing the first movie, they are giving you a hint towards what this demon is going to transform into after, because we see the face, and it does do the change of the facial structure, even from the gross looking demon we see initially. And you see a little bit of the long neck that's kind of peeking out of the cellar door, but you don't quite get the reveal. You just see that, you know, it looks a little longer than normal, and it has claws and everything like that. And later is when, you know, expands and becomes this almost H.P. Lovecraft almost kind of creature in a sense, very alien like.
I was gonna say Stuart Gordon doing H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes, totally. Yeah,
when these guys
like From Beyond or whatever.
Oh yeah. I mean, when this turns into the demon version, so like the face kind of turns to like a less cute but similarly shaped like E.T. head almost, and then like the neck starts going. And also I was thinking about this with the B picture we'll talk about, but this movie, the design that they have for there reminds me a lot of how in the end of the film Chud, I don't know if you guys have recently rewatched that sleazy motion picture.
I have not recently rewatched it, I can't say, but we did. I think we covered that with one of your.
I think we have
one of your podcast co-hosts.
That makes sense, because I have not shut up about that movie to those guys for 20 years. But there is a part of the end of Chud.
Oh my God, was it Andrew? Are we all idiots?
No, did I talk about that with you?
That would be crazy. You can keep going. I'm going to look this up in the background and figure out how brain dead we all are real quick.
All this to say, like, the extended neck and the shape of the head, it looks almost exactly.
Was Andrew.
Oh my God, was it? Fuck.
Guy, we're so old for fuck.
Not only that, dude, we did Chud and Chud 2 Bud the Chud as an episode.
Absolutely. Which I think someone from this movie is actually in like a B part. Actually, the woman I think who plays Annie in this movie is in Chud 2 Bud the Chud as like Lady in Crowd or something like that, which I'm not pulling. I think I saw that on IMDb today. But anyway, this motherfucker looks like a Chud at the end of Chud. That's the most roundabout way possible for me to say one special effect looked like another one.
What a full circle moment we just had on the Sleazoids.
Well, I guess, yes. So I was trying to think of what the other time I was on the show was, and there it was.
There it was.
That's beautiful.
That's so funny.
We nailed it.
Oh my God.
We nailed it.
Ooh, that's wonderful.
But no, and I like the inventiveness of some of the creature designs in the gore, because, you know, we'll say it with demons. Demons kind of chooses a specific kind of demon they like, and everyone kind of turns into a pretty similar demon. And there's a couple moments of progressing the demon. Like there's a full body birth in it at one point that's different than what other people transform into. You do get to see different developments. Like I think it's still well done. But this one, it's not just the one kind. It's like it's almost like it takes qualities of the character and it becomes elements of it. It's like when the demon possesses Annie's boyfriend, and it goes into the full, like, you know, Ash axes him to green slime while she's watching, and he just has like crazy layers of like teeth. Like it's almost like a Fright Night kind of situation going on.
Oh, good call. Yeah, like it's like a monster with a shark mouth kind of deal.
Yeah, like that's so like it's a bit of a different design, and like that helps keep some of this fresh, especially just because like around this time I think you start to piece together that we introduced more characters who are kind of silly archetypes so that they can at some point get possessed and get chopped up and get and start to recreate the escalating scale of grotesquerie and also the loudness of it, because I mean that was the one thing about the first Evil Dead was that just that relentlessness of just the screaming starts, every time you think you've beaten one, it's they've possessed another one, and the sound design and the editing bit of all the demons like whirring about outside trying to break into the cabin, and all the distorted camera angles and sudden bursts of screaming and scratching, like that's what I think about when I think about what like where Evil Dead becomes scary is just like, oh my god, this is just never ending.
I love the coordinated physical performance of everybody too. When they see a sound, they're all looking in the same direction at the same time with the zoom. It feels very 50s or something like that, something old school.
Big time. It's old school monster movie kind of thing. What's that in the window?
Yeah, with a big swoosh every single time.
And all of their physical expressions too, like their facial physical expressions are very like bug-eyed, the exaggerated, very theatrical. You could see it on a poster kind of deal.
Totally. And then just a minute before this, he's covering the camera with the green blood from the demon. Like that is one moment too when he's axing the guy. The blood just starts dripping through the lens. It's awesome.
Yeah. Now, Josh, maybe you guys might know this just from watching more production stuff and reading things, but is the green demon blood a shortcut around, if it's all red, there's no way this is getting released in a theater?
That's my guess.
Right?
Yeah, I suppose it might be. It just feels like there's so much craziness in this that it's like, would the green blood make much of a difference, you know?
Yeah,
but
totally.
it's possible that they could be, you could be just turn that part of your brain off because we're seeing something otherworldly rather than a human body being mutilated. I could see that for sure.
I think it also does just give them I think it's how they're able to do it more on screen.
Yeah,
because I think I'm trying to think of the stuff that's red blood in this, and it's like the gushing geyser, or it's like the off-screen blood hitting the light bulb and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
a lot
Whereas
of it isn't
the green
from the
stuff is like,
body.
no, an axe is going into a person.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, fuck.
One of the big ones you see from the actual human body is when Ash cuts his arm off or his hand off and it gushes over his face.
Right.
But that's I like when I'm really thinking about it, I feel like that's the only one you see that feels, I don't know, certainly connected to the human body on camera.
Sam Raimi was like, that's the one they'll give me because the guy has to do it.
Right.
I've written him into a situation. He's got to chop the hand off.
And they do the Nightmare on Elm Street geyser with the guy in the cellar door, but again, you don't see him. Like,
that's
you don't
so
see
sick
the body
too, by the way, though. That's so
it's
awesome.
Oh my god.
When he just gets dragged in there and he just like gets mulched and comes out the other side, it's just like
So
a fucking
good.
like a reverse faucet situation.
Yeah, it's wild. And I do like the more tasteful replacement of what happens in the first one with the one girl where you still get the tree that ties her up and everything. And, and it's I mean, once again, the effect is incredible. I mean, just watching all of the branches like go around every limb and everything. And instead what they do this time, which is definitely the more tasteful option, is
that's another one where Sam Raimi was like, maybe I got a little too transgressive with it.
That I think is, I was going to say, when you were talking about like getting more money to kind of clean it up and this, that, and the other thing, I was like, that's the biggest example of the control is, what are they going to do with those vines? Because it had been a while, like I said, since I rewatched this, and that's happening. And I was like, because the first movie, the vine sequence is imprinted on my brain since I was like 13 and watched that movie way too fucking young. But this, I was like, where are we putting those vines? I don't remember. And then instead, like, it's her getting pulled through, like getting rocked, like she's water skiing and has fallen, but the boat is still pulling her.
That's a perfect way to describe it. There's one shot where they obviously didn't even have an actual body double. They just have like a fake dummy, and they are rocking that dummy. It hits two puddles with such power that like I had to flinch, because the way that he edits it back into her being a stunt double during the sequence is pretty seamless. It's very violent that way. But I do love all the effects leading up to it, like just every zoom in, like her, like a big open eye as she's shocked that it's going around her forehead or something. It's just really scary and awesome.
A close up on a big eye like that while something horrible is happening to a person. That's about as Italian horror as it gets right there.
Totally.
I was so funny because I was going to bring it up when we talk about demons too. There's a really horrible moment where a character gets impaled through their eyeball, and I was just like,
that's rough
Italian
stuff.
The Italian way.
And the lead up. That's the thing. They don't just have the violence happen.
No.
It's always this big build up until finally the exclamation point.
Draw it out so that everyone in the theater knows what is about to happen. There's not a single person that's going to be like, wait, I missed it.
Yeah, look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it.
You have to imagine like a vaudeville guy going up and being like, is everybody watching? Look. You won't want to miss this part.
Come on, kids, look at the screen.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I do like the, I'm still impressed by the, like, where this ends up going when it does reduce the amount of characters that it has, and it does just go to like Ash and Annie at a certain point where she's the daughter, translating some of the pages from her father, revealing that there is a path to escape here, or at least a plan that they could do, which is, have the quote unquote fabled hero with a blade for a hand performing a ritual and opening up the portal in order to banish this physical manifestation of the possessed thing. And obviously it's a plan that doesn't go, swimmingly. He does get temporarily possessed, and he, ends up chasing people around, and, he does run into Annie, who accidentally stabs one of the guys with the skeleton knife at one point. Before I think that's the guy who ends up getting the hick guy who ends up getting dragged into the cellar and turned into the blood fountain. That's that guy.
Mr. Tow Truck Driver, who I think was a Raimi guy. He's been in I think he's passed on now, but he's been in a few Sam Raimi motion pictures over the years.
I was looking him up earlier. Dan Hicks. Yeah, you're right. He's been in a lot of... Dude, he's been a Raimi lifer. He was even an Emerald City citizen in Oz the Great and Powerful.
That movie, I'll tell you what, I'll never fucking forgive that movie. The one thing... I mean, it's not a good movie, but that was the last movie that I was able to see at the Ziegfeld Theater here in Manhattan that was, at one time, this beautiful, legendary movie palace, real old school.
Just tainted the memory forever.
Yeah, man, because they fucking closed that theater. Like, everything closes here and just becomes an event space, And so, like, I never got back there for another screening after that, and it was just like... Man, that was disappointing.
That was the finale, huh?
But that was also where we went to a Marvel, like, friends and family screening of the first Ant-Man movie. And Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd were there to, like, do an intro. And I went out to the bathroom before it started and, like, swung the door open because I knew it was going to start soon. So I was trying to be fast and literally almost pushed a door into Michael Douglas's face. I was like, oh, shit. Then at the end of the intro, we realized, like, he was wasted. Like, this dude he was just, like, making a pit stop for this night on the town that he was having. And my buddy Eric was sitting on the aisle, and he comes running up, and my buddy just sticks his hand out and he goes, Mr. Douglas, high five. And Michael Douglas was like, yeah! And, like, drunkenly high-fived this dude. And then we watched Ant-Man.
That's a way better memory. You should remember that one forever rather than Oz the Great and Powerful.
Beautiful thing was the first time my wife saw Jaws was on the big screen at that theater. So that was a really special thing. Yeah, now you can fucking have a mitzvah there or some shit. Great.
But you can't high five Michael Douglas or almost.
No, he'll never return there. No.
Nope. Unfortunately, another Dan Hicks movie will never grace the screen. And Dan Hicks doesn't grace the screen anymore after that point in the movie either.
Oh, no,
that is it.
Can't return from that one. That's for sure.
He covers it in blood, and it goes really fast from there. It literally just is Ash ends up, I guess, freeing himself from the possession with Linda's necklace, because it is kind of, we see it a couple times throughout the film. Again, they're trying to give you more rules that sort of make sense,
right?
Which is that every time he gets possessed, it's like if he can access that humanity in him or that that love inside of him, and it's implied a little bit too that the daytime helps as well.
Yeah,
but if he can
sunlight,
access this part of himself, then he can free himself, and he does it just long enough to get the chainsaw stump with the sawed-off shotgun that he uses the chainsaw stump to turn into a sawed-off shotgun. Obviously, the iconic push-in groovy, which has become
it's so good.
Every movie nerd's favorite line it's probably like a top 10 quote for the most annoying person you know, but also the coolest person you know.
Yeah, it's got a wide spectrum, this line.
The franchise spanning box set that I have of all this stuff, which just does not include Army of Darkness, but it's the first two. Yeah, I think it's a rights thing. It's the first two in the show, but it is literally called the Groovy Collection.
There you go.
Well, I mean,
it makes sense. Well, and to be honest, like that moment is for me the moment where Sam Raimi does he was like, I do want to get to eventually the tone of Army of Darkness, and like that feels like a moment that belongs in that movie, just straight up.
Right. It's him becoming the hero lead now, like definitively. We've seen him
cartoon comic book action hero who actually this universe needs.
Exactly. And it's like he even starts. This is where he gets almost all his one-liners. He has maybe a couple of them that feel a little bit more humorous and less like macho. They're all funny, of course, but they're not as macho. This one he has like, let's go to that cellar door and carve ourselves a witch. And then he has the groovy. He's got the, I'll swallow your soul, swallow this, that kind of stuff.
That's a good one.
It's just pure action hero kind of stuff, mixed in with the horror, which is a lot of fun. I mean, I love every minute of this transition of his character.
Well, and it's when too Henrietta, like that's when Ted Raimi, right, as the bloated corpse is like flying around and giggling and going full exorcist mode and pulling on Annie's hair and growing its extremely long like brontosaurus neck and screeching and doing all like there's the crazy practical effects. It is just unbelievable to watch unfold.
I also love that, like, he's obviously using the weapons he has to fight the demon, but at one point he is just punching it. And it's really funny to watch somebody like just fist fight a demon that has a 10-foot long neck and, looks like something from a Stuart Gordon film, like we were saying before. So I really get a kick out of that too.
Yeah. And of course, eventually dismembering it with the chainsaw hand, which is the, just again, disgusting, kind of beautiful if you're a fucked up human being.
He carves this fucking fat suit up and it is glorious. He really does.
Everywhere. All over the set, all over the camera.
There's even an amazing shot where you see Annie reacting to the look of the monster after it's been like just cut limb from limb. And the monster itself, they made a form of it where it doesn't have its head and it's like spouting blood and both limbs are cut off too. And I don't know, and I think it's just one shot beyond the head that tells him, I'll swallow your soul or whatever. So just the attention to detail of the layers of its transformation is great.
It's so well done, and obviously leads to what I think is still a pretty out of nowhere but very fun ending that does eventually. I have to imagine at the time, if you didn't know Army of Darkness was coming, it had to have been the most like surreal what the fuck ending to any movie you've ever seen. I've always seen it with obviously Army of Darkness knowing broadly what it is, and so it's never quite hit me probably the way it did hit that audience when he just gets like, they do end up summoning the portal that they're going to get rid of this demonic spirit through. And at the same time, it also takes the Oldsmobile. It also takes him and
various
it swallows
trees from the forest and stuff.
Everything. They all end up in the Middle Ages where he has a shotgun and he impresses the knights. And, it is a cool nod to know the fact that like Sam Raimi, whether he got the opportunity to make it or not, he was showing, what he was hinting at the movie he was going to make when he originally came up with a sequel, was that it's like this guy is the unluckiest dude in the world and he thinks that he's victorious and the badass hero, and he is, but on some level he's also the most tortured hero because it's like, well, now you're here and you have to keep fighting these things.
Yeah, and you're expected to, because now these people look at you as like a god or something like that.
Yeah, you are destined to spend every waking moment of the rest of your life just in surreal, zombie demonic possession hell. It's mutilation
kind of
hell.
Wild, like, because you get to the end of this movie and you're like, oh man, like all this guy really wants to do is just sit down. And like there is no rest for this man anytime soon. Like you just a whole
That's why it's such a great pullout of
all.
all the knives being like, whoa,
Yes.
whoa, and he's like, god damn it.
Just want to take a fucking nap. Come on. I love him going through the portal too. It's like it doesn't last as long, but it is kind of like Ash gets his own little Jupiter and Beyond the Infinity sequence because like we're playing with like colors. There's all sorts of like lights flashing around him and stuff like that for like a quick second.
Totally.
It's really awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
Evil Dead 2. What a movie. If we are pivoting towards a reductive rating round on this one, I think I am still, and hopefully no one murders me, I am in Jamie 4 territory on this one. I love this movie. I have always just... I've watched it so many times and I have tried it so many times, and every single time, and actually last time I saw it, I actually went to the theater to see it on a print because I was like, I'm going to keep trying this movie forever. And it played like gangbusters with an audience. Like it and the print highlighted just the insane practical effects work and all of the, again, the perspective and the lens and the effects trickery and just everything that they're doing. It looks so amazing. And every single time I watch it, I still go into it being like, the horror is going to play more for me in the way that I wish that it did. And it just never quite does it just because of how much it diverges from the original film in terms of tone, which again is not a problem for me because again, I love the Terminator and I really enjoy Terminator 2. And I get that they are totally different things. There's a pure lo-fi nasty thing, and then there is the technically polished, friendlier, accessible pop action version that doesn't sacrifice many of the same things that are great about the first one. And so I feel very similarly about this. And just every time I watch it, I go, oh, it is so much the first movie in terms of the same structure and basic premise and everything like that. The body horror, creatures, and mutilation, everything is so much better, or at least so much more, resourceful, or I guess resourceful is not the word either. They're more resourceful in the first film because they have so little resources, but they were given so much power with this one to really fulfill a vision, and a controlled vision in a way that's just spectacular. And it is way funnier. It's way more confident. There's so many things that you can say are better about this movie. And there's still a nasty part in the back of my brain that goes, doesn't that first movie feel so scary and disturbing and violating and nasty in a way that this one feels fun? It's cartoonish, and I like that about it, but at the same time, there's part of me watching this that goes, ooh, the makeup. Look at that camera move. Look at that. Look at that slapstick stooge moment. Look at it. And whereas the first movie actually freaks me out. It actually unsettles me. It makes me, it feels unpleasant. It makes me sad. I don't know. There's so many things about it that, there's just a part of me that goes, that's what I just personally prefer in a movie. But I watch this and I go, if you like this one more, I absolutely understand. Like, it's just, even though it's not as unpleasant or unsettling, and it's more in like that Stuart Gordon vein, or honestly maybe a better comparison is Peter Jackson. Like, I think about what Peter Jackson did with splatter comedies, like the tone of those, like this feels more like a sequel to, or a companion to Brain Dead to me than than in terms of tone than it does something of the original Evil Dead. But despite saying that, basically that self-aware comedy aspect holds me back just a tiny bit, but it's one of the most accomplished pieces in Sam Raimi's filmmaking career. You can't argue otherwise. The slapstick kineticism of it, the bug-eyed manic Bruce Campbell performance, how that entire 30-minute stretch of him just fighting the cabin like he's like if Charlie Chaplin all of a sudden was in like From Beyond. Like, it's it's amazing. It's such an amazing idea. It's so well done, and it's a movie with 10 straight minutes of a guy fighting his hand. Like, it's
amazing. What a sequence.
So it's still obviously an incredible movie. So
yeah, I think I'm in the 5 territory.
Hell yeah.
I do prefer the first one because I agree with you, Josh, that I think it legitimately kind of freaks me out, and the relentlessness of the demons, all of those almost lack of rules they put on them, I think does make me feel kind of like powerless as I'm watching it.
I feel weirder showing it to people and watching it with other people because I feel like people just have a bad time watching the first one a lot of the time, whereas this one is the fun one.
Yeah, to be honest, I was going through horror movies one of these nights with my brother, and this was years ago, and he is more like he likes horror movies, but he probably he doesn't want to be like completely freaked out by it. So I was like, well, Evil Dead has that kind of that mixture, and specifically the second one. And I went to the second one knowing you don't even need the first one to watch it and understand what's going on and everything. So it is, I think that's also kind of why I like this one though, is because we have what we were saying, that produced single versus a demo version of a song. It's just like we have the punk rock version of the first one. And then this one, it's like some producers got involved, but Sam Raimi was still allowed to basically do whatever he wanted. And so even though it's more polished and controlled, there's still something about it that is so different, and him changing the tone I think is a very smart move so that it doesn't feel exactly the same, and he's able to even probably come up with different gags that may be similar to some of the first ones but are ultimately different, because he's still trying to strike a comedic tone with even the death moments, the murder moments. It's really cool to be able to have two different versions of a film that are this good and realized by the same person. And Bruce Campbell, I already think he's great in the first one, but I really do think he's at least better in this as a performer, as an actor. The way that he gets to capture kind of that the first movie with the kind of classic romantic lead into a horror film, but then he just goes insane by joining the whole Looney Tunes mindset of the house and the demons, and then he turns into a heroic comic book style action hero. Like there's just so many lanes he has to go down that I think he does flawlessly. So it was a big ask, and he nails it. 5 out of 5 for me. Evil Dead 2.
For you, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm a 5 this time out, I think. It's funny, Josh, you mentioned...
Oh, it's the Andrew upgrade, too.
Yeah, a little bit of an upgrade. And I'll say, it's funny you mentioned showing people Evil Dead, and they're not sure what they're in for. Back in my programming days, I screened this once as part of a horror movie marathon where I believe at that time the titles were all secret. And so there was a new restoration of this, however many years ago that was. And I was like, it's a fucking classic. Let's go, man. And boy, there were so many people where it was like Marty McFly at the end of Back to the Future. Like, man, guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are going to love it. Like, all of these people were like, the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, the fuck is wrong with you? You're kind of the same age as me. You're maybe a little older. Like, yeah. How did you not know that you're at a horror marathon? What are you doing? So that, it can blow up in your face. And so for that reason, like, this is a nice entry point to the series, because it gives you, like we said, both sides of the coin, because it is like this transition movie, like the goofier shit in Army of Darkness, which it's way more gooftacular than this movie, and then also sort of in keeping with some of the horror. I do like, this is a better looking movie, I think, cinematographically. Like, there's one shot where when Ash is realizing like that the bridge is blown out, and there's that great shot of Bruce Campbell in front of this bridge with like this very artificial but still glorious like sunset behind him, this like rear projection thing.
Yeah, totally. and the big wide shot, I was trying to analyze it, and I was like, is Bruce Campbell stop motion, and that's like a matte painting?
Yeah. Like
I think that's what it is. It looks great.
It's
regardless.
Glorious. It's absolutely glorious, and just the innovative stuff here. Like we mentioned briefly, the mirror thing, where it's two Ashes looking at each other, and one is just a dude with face putty on made up to look like Bruce Campbell, and it's looking and then actual Bruce Campbell. Like, that stuff is just so inventive. So like, even though you had all this De Laurentiis money coming in, it didn't flatten anything. It didn't kill any of the creativity. It only helped it.
He's not like, now we're doing Evil Dead but with reverse shot.
Or if they're like, we want Evil Dead but we want PG-13 Evil Dead, thank you very much. Like, that would have been just terrible. He would have found a way, let's be honest, but you still need the demonic grit of Evil
we were
Dead.
actually just highlighting that he found a way to do it and sneak it into Spider-Man.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. And also, just two quick things. One, yes, I did confirm the actress who plays Annie, Sarah Berry, was credited as onlooker in Chud 2 Bud the Chud. So this is the second Sarah Berry movie you guys are covering.
Let's go.
That's
also, yeah, that's right. And then the dude who plays Ed, the boyfriend character, this fella, Rich Daumier, didn't do much with an acting career, but this dude was a heavy hitter hosting shit on QVC, the shopping channel. Like that dude found a whole career just doing hosting QVC shows. And he's also a demon who gets axed up to shit in Evil Dead 2. I love it.
That's awesome. Hell of a career.
God damn. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up here for Evil Dead 2, but you're going to want to stick around because we're going to be right back and we're going to be talking about the Italian version of Evil Dead. We're going to be talking about a movie called Demons.
This is happening right now. And it could be happening to you. Demons. They will make cemeteries their cathedrals. And the cities will be your tombs. Will you survive it? Demons.
All right, we are back and we are talking Demons, the 1985 Italian supernatural horror film written and directed by Lamberto Bava, co-written by Dario Argento, Dardano Sacchetti, and Franco Farini. I love the Italian names. And starring, we got more here, Urbano Barberini.
Nice.
So I feel like Brad Pitt in Inglourious Bastards every time I get to
Barberini.
Gorlami. Yeah, they'll get the hand up there. We also have Natasha Hovey as the sort of two leads who are the main sort of survivors near the end of the film. They are two college students who meet each other while attending a free screening at a newly renovated local movie theater, Movie Palace, that turns into an all-night claustrophobic assault by, you guessed it, a bunch of demons. This is
what?
Crazy. It does what it says on the can. Can't accuse it of anything else. This is our first time, though, actually talking about Italian cult filmmaker Lamberto Bava, who is famously the son of Italian horror legend Mario Bava, a Sleazoid's all-time favorite, a godfather, in this case, literal father, behind such films as Blood and Black Lace, Black Sunday, Black Sabbath, Bay of Blood, lots of black and blood, and many, many others. Danger Diabolic, which at some point I can't wait to talk about. He was not just one of the best Italian directors of his era, but cinematographers as well. He was a cinematographer even before he was a director, and he basically shepherded in the Italian horror film, whether it was like the black-gloved serial-killing giallo variety, or it was the gothic, surreal, sort of supernatural horror, even the proto-slasher. He basically did it a full decade before other people were doing it with Bay of Blood. Like, that's practically like people go out into a forest and just get murdered, but it's also a bit of a murder mystery giallo thing as well. But regardless, he was the guy who walked so Argento could run, ultimately, is what we are getting at here, how the kids might say it. And his son Lamberto didn't quite have as accomplished of a career, but he was a very prolific B-movie guy who essentially learned his basic craft from the best. He was an assistant director for his dad as early as 1965, so when he was like 20 years old. He worked on a bunch of his films through the 60s and 70s, and eventually graduated to working on Argento films as well. And so in the late 70s and into the early and mid 80s, he was on the set for Inferno and Tenebrae, which are two films we've covered on the show and love. And he learned from those guys how to run a set, how to operate a camera, how to do lighting, how to do optical effects, all these things. And I've not personally seen enough of his filmography to know whether he distinguished his own style at any point. Like, I do like scrolling through his filmography here because it's like
a lot of great titles.
I want to
it
watch
is a
all
sea
of these.
of B-movie nonsense that I would be interested in every single one of them. But I will say with Demons, he does a perfectly solid, I think, copycat job of two all-time great Italian horror filmmakers. Like, you can see a little bit of his father here, but honestly more Argento. There is so much Inferno in this movie, which is great because I love Inferno. Like, that's the one where Argento basically does an entire movie of nothing but the surreal, disorienting nightmare sequencing of Suspiria. Like, it's literally just a series of set pieces and colored lights and slow burn anticipation and eventually a gore punchline of some kind. But like, the entire concept of that movie is like, what if there was an evil Art Deco building? Like, that's it. There's no story. Like, that's the
It's
whole
just
movie.
evil, and evil things happen.
And in this case, I think he's kind of done something similar, but he's at least been given a little bit more of a grounding structure with the ensemble sort of siege picture idea, like definitely Evil Dead style, definitely a little Romero, like a little bit Night and Dawn of the Dead.
Big time.
Yeah, because there's that kind of like the transferring of the demon like a zombie through biting and scratching, the demons actually too.
Yeah, like they very much operate like sort of like fast zombies in a way, in terms of how they're written into function. But then you also have the meta movie theater setting, which is just a fun idea. You gotta love a movie theater set film. Jamie, you might remember the Italian one that I think might have even inspired this, Closed Circuit.
Oh, definitely.
Which is the murder mystery one, which if anyone listening to this hasn't seen it, it's literally like a bunch of people go to a spaghetti western, and then the spaghetti western cowboy at one point points his gun at the screen and it kills someone in the theater. Yeah. And everyone, like, they literally lock it down to be like, okay, who actually did this murder, or did the movie actually kill someone?
So I was like halfway through looking up whether I had seen this on Letterboxd, and when you like got halfway through your description, I was like, nope, never mind. I definitely have not seen that movie, and it sounds fucking awesome. It
is awesome. It is a very, very fun movie. And so like, and that's the only one that on my list here that like predates it, because like Anguish comes out after this. Messiah of Evil, I think, is maybe similar around. It has that one set piece in the movie theater. The opening of Scream 2. Yeah. Anguish is, that's a tough one. Yeah. It's got some crazy shit going on.
Have you guys covered Anguish?
We have.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I love this kind of subgenre of this specific genre. Anytime something's locked in a movie theater and they go a little bit meta with the haunting is very fun. And this one literally is just the movie theater. There is at one point kind of a character that represents it through a person or like a quiet demon or something like that. But for the most part, it feels like there's this just
there is an agent of the haunted movie theater for sure that's operating outside the realms of like just the movie theater being evil. But otherwise, though, functionally throughout the movie, it's just like, you feel like you're in a haunted movie theater, and it's just saying, the things that are happening to the movie characters, these things are also happening to you. Right. It's just too bad they weren't there to like watch like a rom-com or something.
Because even what's cool is I think it's the is it the assistant director or one of the stars of the movie, someone that plays, I believe it was Jerry, who plays in the meta horror movie that they're all watching, and he actually directed that sequence that they're watching, the movie within.
That's interesting.
Not only one of the actors, that is the great Mikel Suavi, who I remember we had to look up how to say his name last time we talked about him, because I think I was always calling him Michael or Michelle. It is Mikel Suavi. He is the director of Cemetery Man, and
that movie's
Stage
amazing.
Fright, and The Church.
Right.
So a great Italian horror director in his own right, but before that, yes, he did a lot of acting and production work on Argento films and on this film, and so that was where he learned his craft quite similarly. And funny little connection to The Church, for anyone who's seen The Church, was meant to be Demons 3. I remember we did when we did the virtual screening we did for The Church. I remember us looking that up and being like, "Oh, I didn't know that they were originally supposed to be a bunch of demons. They're not in a movie theater this time. They're in a church."
Yeah,
and then
that
they ended up
out.
turning it into its own thing.
But it is cool. That
likely place for demons to be hanging out.
Exactly. But it is cool that there's even a meta quality to that film within a film itself, with who's directing it, who's starring in it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like an actually good Italian horror director also directed the film within a film that you see on the screen.
And it's a movie that I would watch too, right?
Totally.
I totally would watch it. And I love that this movie gives you so much with that movie. You know what I mean? It's like, you have to, so you can then understand like what's happening in the movie happens to them. I get that, but like it's cool to just like sit in that. Like there's so many shots where it's like, it's almost like when someone uploads like a bootleg of a movie to YouTube and they put in a fake like movie theater background so it doesn't get taken down by the algorithm. Like there's shots that are like that where it's like you're seeing this fake movie and then there's like 2 or 3 people in a row of seats watching it and you're like watching it with them, almost like MST3K style in a way. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you get this sense of not only are you watching that film that the audience is watching, but they will also cut to into a full frame of it, so it seems like you're watching it along with them, and then you cut to them making a joke about it, or a bunch of people are just making out, and so you get
a lot of people not respecting movie
Totally.
Italian horror, but it's cool too, because then you get a sense of just being in the kind of movie theater culture. Of some people paying attention, some people are scared, some people are making out, some people are making fun of it. I
wanted to know the story about the two loudmouth prostitutes and their pimp Tony. I was like, why are they going to this free promotional
Because everybody
event
needs a night off, Josh. That's you know what I mean.
He's treating his ladies
like how sometimes restaurants are always closed on Monday. You know what I mean? It's just like that's the day of the week we're not doing anything. We're restocking or whatever. Maybe for these folks, that's their business model. Is like Monday we're off, and sometimes it's a movie Monday.
Yeah, and I mean, who's going to deny a free ticket?
It is a free movie too. Like it's worth noting. Like the setup for this is that literally just a bunch of people. Like we open and we're on just like the
subway,
the West Berlin subway system.
Yeah,
and we're introduced to a few different characters, including
it's awesome. I love the music over this score is fucking great.
The
Sorry,
city, like prog rock thing going there. No, it's sick. No, it's a good note, and it's a cool sequence too. I think because we're introduced to Cheryl, played by Natasha Hovey, sort of the the lead of the film in a way. And when she is given the ticket, it's done in this very sort of elongated, like she's creeped out by this mysterious figure in like a metallic half mask who turns out not to be it's like a fake out. He's not the stalker killer as the sort of visual vocabulary is suggesting, but someone literally just offering a free promotional ticket to the reopening of this renovated Metropole movie theater, which she accepts and takes her friend Kathy with her, who hopes it's not a horror movie because she hates them.
Kathy.
Bad night ahead of you.
This sequence with the subway skeeves me out for two quick reasons. One, it definitely gives off vibes of the awesome subway sequence in An American Werewolf in London, where the dude, this note for this dude and for Cheryl, when you get off the subway or get off the metro or the tube or whatever you're calling it where you are, don't wait till everyone else has left the platform before you decide to leave the station. Just walk out with everybody, Cheryl. They're all fucking right there. Yeah. And also, though, the dude giving out the tickets.
Our German listeners are going to get very mad. It's called the U-Bahn.
Oh, the U-Bahn. That's fucking pretty rad. Way to go, Berlin. That's a cool one to call it for sure. I think that was a Wolfgang Peterson movie, wasn't it?
It might have been, actually.
No, that was a bad U571 joke, which I don't think
I was just gonna let you go with it.
Just let me ramble and embarrass myself. No, but the other thing is the guy giving the tickets. The free ticket thing reminds me of if you ever have the displeasure of walking through Times Square here in New York for some reason. There's always the dudes that are like, "You want to go to a comedy club? Hey, comedy show tonight, comedy." And they're also stand-ups that are doing this so they can get like stage time at the ass end of the night, but it's just this thing. You have a free ticket to a movie, free ticket to a comedy club, come on, comedy club. Skeezy, skin crawling immediately in this movie.
Have you been on Bourbon Street? They do that similarly with strip clubs.
You know what, man? A grand shame of mine as a New York or as an American who loves fucking drinking and going to cool places, still have never visited New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
But it's never made it down.
It's that same kind of vibe. You could just go down, and there's so many hustler clubs that they're just like, "Hey, come on, $10 off, $20 off." It's overwhelming. You're like, I don't have the time, man, to go into all these clubs.
You too could live in the Ron Ormond movie. What was it called? The Exotic Ones.
Yes,
that was the one that's set in New Orleans on Bourbon Street.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
You too could visit the Bayou Bigfoot.
Ooh.
They should have that, like, just as an attraction to one of the clubs, is a deep film reference.
Yeah. Come check out Sleepy LaBeef alongside all of the wonderful strip performers.
Oh, I was talking about the synthwave pop, and I'm not sure. It feels like this would be something that he's coming up with. But the guy that's composing the score is Claudio Simonetti from Goblin, which is rad as hell.
Yep.
That's
a huge part of it. I mean, this movie, I will say, is helped a lot. Like, I'm not discrediting anything that Lamberto Bava does on this film, because I think it actually is a pretty well directed movie, especially for what it is. And I think I actually liked it visually more than I remembered. I was wondering if I even previously, because we watched it on, like, I think pretty crummy copy last time we watched it. So this time I was
Would've.
watching the 4K Blu-ray that they did, and I was watching the uncut version, and I was like, damn, this movie is like way more beautiful and nasty than I kind of remember it being.
That
part of
synapse
that
disc is gorgeous, by the way.
It looks amazing.
So good.
And part of that is like Argento is producing this film. Argento is lending Bava a lot of his technicians. Like I was like, he's lending him his composer, lending him his production designer and his makeup guys.
Wow, okay.
Have also put a lot of this together. Like it was guys who worked on Opera, guys who worked on Phenomena.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mikhail Suavi was someone who was doing the film within a film and doing assistant directing on the film, who was someone who had done it a bunch already with Argento and would become a great director himself. So there's a lot of people working on this who were part of just the Argento pipeline. And, you know, that definitely helps Bava make this feel like just right away a very, very professionally made movie in that distinctly Italian way.
Yes.
The dubbing is still hilarious. The
yeah.
sense of storytelling and the way that it moves can sometimes just be like suddenly a burst of light and a rock song hits and something crazy happens.
Yeah. Like one of my favorite transitions is at the beginning where there's this a blonde girl who I think is waiting for her boyfriend at the theater, and she's just checking herself out in the mirror, and she hears something, and in order to look at it, she takes out a flashlight and flashes it at the camera, and then that actually transitions into the next scene. So there are things that he does here and there that are, you know, just kind of creative and pretty seamless.
I really like when they're first watching the movie, because when when everyone sits down, we're introduced to all the characters. There's the the teenage couple on the date. There's the elderly couple. There's two college bros, and including one being George, the Urbano Barberini character, who ends up becoming sort of co-lead of the film. You also have the classic Argento archetype of the blind man who either gets killed or whose dog kills someone. That's just in so many different Argento movies. He's going to the movie. But when everyone sits down to watch or chat or smoke or make out through this new horror movie that basically kind of plays like, Jamie, do you remember that Mexican horror movie we did, Grave Robbers?
Yes.
Where they go into the tomb and like, that's what I was thinking about a lot watching it.
Simple kind of haunted storyline.
It's literally a bunch of kids go to like the grave of Nostradamus.
Yeah.
And they find out that there's no body. There's just like an old Evil Dead summoning book and a metallic fanged teeth like goblin demon mask that looks like something that like goblin guys would wear if the Daft Punk guys had like a goblin era. They would like put that mask on, I feel like.
Yeah, totally.
I love the shot of that would actually be pretty badass, honestly. Yeah, that'd be like
awesome,
if Daft Punk played like a Halloween show, like that's
yeah.
It's like the Iron Maiden mask and it just sticks
Yeah. Hell yes.
Very awesome.
I love the shot of when within the movie when they open what is supposed to be like Nostradamus's tomb, and you get a look at like this tomb that they're using, and I was like, unless Nostradamus died a 4-year-old child, I don't know how you think a whole grown-ass man's body was fitted in this. It's like the size of a suitcase. And yeah, something that's perfect for fitting an ancient book inside.
Yeah, only a book. Yeah. I love
what I love is that the characters in, a character in the movie puts the mask on, it scratches themselves the same way a woman in the lobby we see does, because it looks like there's like a promotional mask for the movie in the lobby. Woman also scratches herself. And you're getting the hints in the filmmaking anyway, that like replicating what's happening on the screen in the actual film that you're watching, which is obviously something that's incredibly obvious, but something that I think is really well handled as like the little bit of meta filmmaking that it does become. Like I think about how the diegetic score from the movie they're watching becomes score in the actual film itself as you're watching it. I love the way the dark shadowy theater and sort of neon projector lighting, sort of like blues and reds, is like hitting some of the characters, as obviously one of them is transforming into the quote unquote instrument of evil they're saying in the film. It's very similar to the Evil Dead. It's just, you get hit with it, suddenly you are this red-eyed, green, drooled, and like pimple-zitted, clawed demon who just like watches screaming and stabbing and rock music start in the movie and goes, well, I'm joining in on all of that, and just starts, unloading it. But it's the moments that were impressive in the filmmaking style, like how playful it is. Like it's that moment where the girl is like, who's transforming into a demon, she's screaming in sync with the movie behind the screen, and one of the characters is like, those screams sound so real.
Yeah.
Like the movie's so good. And, you know, and just cutting back and forth. It reminds me of how Wes Craven does this in Scream 2.
Yeah,
When
big
Jada,
time.
when Jada Pinkett Smith is, you know, getting up in front of the screen and like literally bleeding out in front of everyone. And it's just very well done.
And you kind of get lost in it. It becomes almost disorienting of what you're watching, whether or not you're watching the film within a film or you're watching the film that we're watching. And I love just some of the details that they get into with the makeup effects. Like when that girl is transforming and they do the close up on her teeth as they're falling out one by one. It's probably one of the most disgusting, real looking body transformations I've ever seen.
We've talked about this a lot. Jamie and I are both very averse to teeth horror.
Yeah.
Teeth is just, and that is, I think, truly one of the grossest ones I've ever seen, because the concentration, like he really just sits on that shot, and how real it looks. They go through, I would say, 8 or 9 individual teeth falling out and being replaced in this jagged formation. It's just, it's skin crawling.
It's like you didn't need that shot to be 47 seconds long, but you know what? You paid for that puppet face with the fucking teeth to fall out of it, and you're going to show people.
Yeah, we're using every tooth that we made, damn it.
Exactly. And we're going through the first bag of teeth and then the bag of the backup teeth. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then it turns, it's really energetic. I think that's my favorite part about how this is directed, is that it's almost consistently people running from demons, or a demon themselves transforming, or running, you know, kind of frantically through a hallway, and the camera follows it along and tracks it as it's doing it. It's just, there's a ton of really
and there's so many things happening. It's like, oh, that demon just clawed someone's throat open. Oh, now there is a guy who just got hanged.
Yeah,
that's what I love about these demons,
of
right?
the movie theater.
These demons, okay, they're not just like biting you like zombies and whatnot. These demons, they're thinking about stuff. Like that one demon who's like from the first one, who gets the MF Doom mask that cuts her face. She transforms in the bathroom or whatever. But so like she takes like the stanchion rope, like you said, to hang that dude. And I was like, this lady demon's like really thinking things through. You're not just scratching people, you're using tools around you. These are like intelligent monsters.
And she drops the body in front of them as they're running towards it too. So it almost feels like a haunted house gag or something like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which and it's awesome, because what I love about so much about the production design and the set that they done, because they shot this actually in West Berlin, and so all the exterior stuff is on location, but the theater, from what I understand, is a set that they shot in Italy, and the use of putting that body at the very beginning of the hysteria breaking out, a body is hanging in the middle of the theater, everyone's freaking out. There's a demon that just literally ripped its way through the screen, and they watched it happen, which is also a fantastic little visual detail. But all of this stuff maintains throughout the rest of the set pieces. Like that hanged body is there every time they run by it, and then there's a part later on in the film where the hanged body becomes a demon and infected, and a guy falls, and like literally the demon being hanged grabs onto the guy and is like, I've got you.
That's so good.
So there's just so many little recurring, like it feels like a corpse piling situation where the corpses are slowly becoming reanimated and doing more damage. Like someone who gets killed later on, all of a sudden there's one guy who just like vomits blood on a character for like about 60 seconds.
Dude,
there's another
that guy
person
comes off the top rope. That guy comes from the balcony and lands on that girl. It's the girl from the dating couple, and she's crawling around on the gross ass movie theater floor, which is like, despite all the gore effects in this movie, that was one of the parts where I was like, oh, ew, movie theater floor. But yeah, that demon's giving over infection power or whatever is just vomiting on people.
Yeah, can't actually bite or scratch.
No, he just pukes.
There's one shot in this, and I think it's in the meta movie actually, but someone gets stabbed from one of the demons, and they have this very purposely slow shot of the knife just being taken out of the back and the blood just smears on it, and it's so much slower than he needed to do it, and it makes me just feel that kind of visceral pain, that feeling.
Yeah, the gore in this is so impressive. Like,
Yeah.
I think about the girl in the bathroom who gets her scalp just torn off. Like, that was an unnecessary detail. The most silly one is the fact that they take the blind man and they gouge his eyeballs out.
That's really, you know what? That's
a wild
unfair.
one.
You know, that's just rude.
But you literally see like a clawed prosthetic demon hand just like wriggling around in the eye socket, being like, "I'll take those."
Some of my favorites are the really otherworldly stuff that the demons seem to be doing just to be creepy. Like when there's one girl that gets scratched or bitten and she's transforming, and just during the transformation, her fingernails, all of them, open up and just start like water falling blood out of them. And it just feels so, again, it's like, it just feels unnatural, even though you are watching the body be mutilated. But that particular image doesn't feel real. It feels,
all the bubbling skin and like green slime zit popping. I was like, that's unnecessary.
The zip popping is really like, at first you're looking at it and you're like, oh, that's kind of like Gremlins-esque. That's interesting. And then like they fucking pop that and you're like, oh man.
I think there's multiple moments in my notes that I just write down blood and pus.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like,
But the
it's
pus
so
looks
gross.
like fucking Nickelodeon slime. Like it's just
Yeah, like when one character at a certain point is like, that's the last promotional ticket I ever accept. And I'm like, yep, totally.
Agreed.
I don't need to see some of this again.
I also think the it's really cool. Speaking on the soundtrack, as all these things are happening, is like it is mostly rock music and stuff like that, but there is a pretty wide variation of the type of rock and metal they use. Like they go from, in the beginning it's synthwave pop, and then there's actual thrash metal playing at a certain point while people are running and panicking. So it doesn't even have the
and then into
campiness.
Rick Springfield.
Yeah, that's what's kind of interesting about it, is that it will have those kind of campier moments with those songs, and then they'll go into thrash metal while people are being torn to shreds, and that feels truly hellish and demonic in a way.
I love the Motley Crue drop when that's blasting while they're all sort of like running for the exits, because they're all like pounding on the glass doors. They're trying to see like where's the emergency exit, and they're realizing they're obviously all locked inside. And there's that detail where they go to the projection booth and there's no projectionist operating the film because it's spooky. It's a haunted projection booth.
Man, I gotta tell you, that as a former projectionist, this just gives me like such pause watching this scene, because like their whole thing about like, oh, there's no projectionist in here. Oh, it must be automated. And I was like, man, that is like,
Sure
the
is.
It's like the booths of today,
Terrifying.
man. And like, that just killed me. Cause if this is a projection booth, you need like, you know, all the posters up, some of them like scuzzy movies that you probably shouldn't be putting posters up for. Like,
Guy smoking a cigarette and he hasn't ashed it in
absolutely.
5 minutes.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know, you need that kind
Yeah,
of
like
shit.
this detail in this movie doesn't even work today because someone would go up there and be like, "Oh, yep, working like normal."
Yep, everything. all the servers appear to be humming along. Excellent.
Definitely no haunted projection going on here.
No, man, I'll tell you guys what. As someone who came from, I cut my teeth as a multiplex projectionist doing platter system stuff. Late nights in the booth, you had 10 projectors going at once, all just humming. My feet up on the desk. It's like 12 o'clock at night. You know, the late shows on a weekend. That was just like a certain kind of living. I don't necessarily miss that life, but that shit was really fun. And like,
Yeah.
now just like the way we so many theaters, you know, present stuff now, it's such a friggin' bummer. Like that was a real space and time that I'm glad I got to be a part of.
You were
at the
watching
end
something
of
and
it.
you were like, you know what? There's a dude up there having a great time.
Yeah, exactly. Someone up
And
there
you know
is
what?
rocking and rolling.
And presumably that dude at times is checking in on the picture and making sure that it's in focus.
Absolutely. You
Someone's
do the
watching you
rounds.
while you get
Yeah.
a hand job. You know?
Oh,
Just
some of
doesn't happen
the
anymore.
some of the stuff I've seen, dude. That's for another episode, I'll tell you.
That'd be a good little bonus up. Andrew's
They did-
horrifying
they-
movie theater stories.
This movie didn't even get into the half of it. Teenagers making out, let me tell you.
Seriously, look out. Look out.
You wish that's all they were doing.
You thought that blind guy's girlfriend was having fun with that other dude. Just you wait. That is really sad, man. Like, this blind guy takes his niece to the movies and she ditches him to go get felt up by some like 49-year-old bald dude. And she's like this like young college student, but she's like so into it. You're like, why is this guy your boyfriend? What is this world?
Yeah, I was questioning that the entire time. I did not understand it at all.
Berlin in the 80s. My God in heaven, what's going on?
I really do love some of the dialogue, because most of this isn't, they're not trying to make any real characterization or any heavy plot or anything. So eventually you have characters just screaming things like, the movie's to explain for all this. Because of that scratch, she became a demon. We got to stop the movie. Like, that's literal dialogue in the film.
I forgot that's also why they go to the projection booth, because they're like, we're going to shut the movie off.
Right. And it's just like, I kind of love that aspect of it too, is that a lot of the times when you watch something like this that's advertised as just like demons killing people in a theater, it does get to these more, I don't know, grounded moments that feel like they just need the exposition. They need to explain some things, whatever. I honestly feel like for the 85-minute runtime, that the majority of this is truly demons killing people and chasing
Just
people and
Yep.
body makeup
And every
effects
time a character tries to like get some sort of control, they just get fucked up.
Yeah.
Like the pimp character of Tony briefly is like, I'm the tough guy who knows violence and I have a switchblade, and so he's taking command. And within like 2 seconds, like I think he stabs one demon with a switchblade before another demon is like taking a giant like Jaws size chunk out of his thigh, flipping him over the balcony into the arms of the hanged demon. And the guy who falls, who bit him, is I think the guy who vomits all over the girl. Like those all happen within like 15 seconds of each other.
Wild.
And then they'll do, I guess, what the one thing that they kind of mix it up with, which I find at least at first to be jarring, and you're kind of not. You're not.
I was
sure
gonna
why
say,
it's
I think
happening,
I know what you're going. Similarly to Evil Dead, where you're like, oh, there's characters also outside who eventually need to meet up with these characters,
right? And it takes time to realize like why they're doing that, how they get there. So you're just curious why it's stalling the momentum we've built in the main location. But I will say some of the jokes are kind of funny. Like I like when they're snorting coke out of a literal coke can. And just that's just so
funny.
Stupid but funny, and at first I was confused.
I heard they got in trouble for that, actually.
Really?
So.
Oh well, I guess because they probably didn't coke to sign off on that one. Hey, that makes sense. But I do.
Oh, I thought they got in trouble for giving people good ideas.
I was actually kind of confused about the gag at first, because I thought it was just, they're sniffing coke and the joke is that you sniff coke and it's Coca-Cola or whatever. But later,
no, there's actual coke in the cocaine can.
And there's mountains of it in there. So I thought that was kind of a funny addition to it.
And he's like, damn, this shit would wake up the dead.
Yeah.
And it is hilarious that they're spilling cocaine all over the place while Billy Idol's White Wedding is playing. That's like...
That was
the movie does
very
have a sense
funny.
of humor. Yeah.
I did find it funny too that they present these characters as very punk rock and almost completely alternative, and then they're listening to like poppier
Billy Idol.
It's just like that was kind of funny too. I don't know if it was just a mistranslation or a miscalculation there.
No, I think they just thought it was a funny joke.
Yeah,
and I think Argento also did tell him that you need to put like fun like more popular songs on the soundtrack, like the way that I have been.
Right.
But because there are deeper cuts they could have used. Like at a later point in the film, we'll talk about it. Like the big moment with the dirt bike and the katana is scored to an actual German like heavy metal band, which is like maybe a song that might have been more appropriate for the German punks to be listening to while they were driving around. Right. So that just tells you that like they knew of the music. They were like, this is a good gag.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple things they try to establish, like there's a boyfriend and girlfriend at a certain point crawling through a vent that turns into a horror gag, and it's not by any means impressive, but they're just kind of tracking slowly through the vent, and it feels controlled at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I will say like Sam Raimi comes up with more inventive situations for his character to have to deal with, and I think at a certain point this movie does kind of go, oh, we need to have characters do things so that we can keep this going in some capacity, because at a certain point, about halfway through the movie, I think they rip chairs out of the auditorium and like barricade themselves in to try to stop the hordes from getting in and all of this, and they've locked themselves into the balcony because some of the demons are down below in the main auditorium already wreaking havoc, so they can't control that. And at a certain point you can kind of tell that the movie goes, yeah, we need the demons to get in there though.
Right.
Yeah.
They're breaking the wall down. They're breaking something down.
They're getting through that barricade, and they're going to introduce
blood.
more elements. Like, obviously, the introduction of these punks, it turns out, is that they're going to get chased by some cops at a certain point, and they're going to sneak into the movie theater through a back door to escape these cops. So the punks are responsible for actually letting the first demon out, which is going to start the chain reaction of the George Romero movie that's happening outside the movie theater,
Right.
which we find out the full details of by the end of the film. But like, that detail's there for that reason. Then it gives the punks more bodies so that they can be the ones who are in that incredible shot that became the poster of all of the
It's great.
glowing eyed demon rising from the stairs.
Which that
Reminds
was
me of
my
the
Chud
fog.
moment. The fog definitely, but the Chud also with like the eyeballs that are like light bulbs
Oh yeah.
is what they gave the Chud.
It always
monsters.
comes back to Chud with Andrew. That's what
Most
you
of
have to
my
understand
fucking
about
life,
Andrew.
man. Most of my 42 years on this rock, I've spent each day thinking about Chud in one way or another.
I love the whole mood of it. This shot
Everyone
is
needs to go
incredible.
to his Star Trek convention so that everyone can hear which 3 Star Trek movies have connections to Chud and Chud and
Oh.
Bud the Chud.
Oh,
Great.
they're
I'm
prepped.
gonna have to start cross-referencing to find out. Yes.
They're in the notes already. But it's very it's one of the more atmospheric shots in the film, and I love, like, there's even kind of a greenish or bluish glow that's rising above it and everything, like lighting,
Yeah.
and then the fog too. It just feels
And the yellow eyes. It looks
yeah,
so cool.
Yeah.
no, it's great. I absolutely love this part. It kind of
Yeah,
feels
and,
like
like,
they're
that's when
changing
they're
the physical
crawling.
space a little bit. That's why I like it so much.
Totally. Like that's where you feel again, like where Argento would sometimes be like, well, they go into the basement of a building and suddenly you're like, no basement has ever looked like this.
Right. Yeah. They even have a shot where like the punks are going through kind of a basement or below the building area to get in, and it feels kind of disconnected to the theater. But at the same time, the theater, the way they shoot it or the way that they've set up this set feels very old school, and like there'd be a lot of hidden rooms and hidden entrances and stuff. Some of
Right.
those old buildings are so strange. They're maze-like.
The punks getting into the theater too is a part that also lends some more beef to the notion that like the building itself is like an evil entity, because they go up to the side of it when they're running away from the cops and they try to open the door and it's locked, and then they're like, oh no, what are we gonna do? And while they turn their backs for 2 seconds, the door just opens on its own, and then they're like, oh, it's open, and they don't even think anything of it, but they're like, oh, it wasn't open, it was totally locked, and now it's let's get in here, and it sort of closes, but that's like the building being like, no, I'm still hungry, come on in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love too that when they
That's
do
awesome.
break down the barricade, it like, again, they have to try to come up with some things, but because they also want wide shots of the chaos, they have to do simple things, not just like scalp rips and stuff, but simple things like choking and just slamming people into tables.
They just start
and
massacring
and-
everyone on
yeah.
that balcony.
I do like the one shot though where it shows the normal people that haven't been turned yet fighting back in really gross ways. Like there's this one shot where a girl is being held down by a demon, and she takes his fingers and puts them in her mouth and just clamps down on them, and the blood
Yeah.
goes all over her face, like everywhere. Just stuff like that I think is cool to see. You know, they're forced to do these violent things now or whatever.
I had a question about the usher who's dressed like Will Ferrell in the film Elf.
Dude,
is
thank
she,
you so much. I can remove this from my notes.
Oh,
That is literally in my notes that she has that outfit on, because she's weirdly built up as like a mysterious figure who's
Yeah.
as
gonna
if
come
she's
back.
in on it, right?
But I'm pretty sure she just gets murked by the demons
She
during that
does,
massacre.
which is weird because at the start of the movie, she's working there. She's literally
Yeah.
the only employee of the theater.
She's like, come on in.
yeah, and she's really fucking creepy, you know?
I think she's the one that even does that I was talking about it at the beginning, that light transition where she
Oh,
hears
yeah.
something,
Yeah.
does the light, and it transitions into the next scene.
Because
So it
she's
does
got like
feel,
the usher flashlight. Yeah.
yeah, it does feel like they're setting her up to be more important. What's funny about the film, even though I guess the ending two characters are kind of focused, but it never feels that way. A lot of the film is like, we have a bunch of these characters. We're going to spend slightly more time with a couple of them, but no one really feels like a lead. It
There's
feels
not
like
a real
the demons
anchor. Yeah.
are really running this. this
Yeah,
whole
seriously.
operation,
Yeah, I know
you
nothing about. I know their names, Cheryl and George. I could tell you no factor about them as a character or what it is that they do.
Yeah,
right,
or
exactly.
they
just
honestly
wanna
don't
bang
even
each
really
other.
lean into the romantic aspect of it, other than the fact that they make like googly eyes at each other when the movie starts,
Right.
and then they both kind of link up as survivors through this situation. And at a certain point, they end up being the only two when, you know, sort of like the double date they were on goes wrong because her friend ends up turning into a demon, which is the one I was alluding to earlier in the last during the Evil Dead discussion, where she's the one who gets the full like birthing a demon like out of her body puppet,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And she slashes his friend, which infects him, and then he gets the big moment of being like, I need you to kill me before I turn, man, which is the introduction of the katana. There's just a dirt bike
Good Lord.
So
and a
sick.
mannequin and a katana, and you're going, it's Chekhov's dirt bike and katana. This is coming.
Yeah.
This is gonna do something here.
Isn't that also the most like 80s cool guy couple things there? You know, motorcycle,
yep.
save the girl, you have a katana. He's missing an Uzi, but we mostly got there, you know?
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. And
It reminded me of the George Romero movie Night Riders.
yeah, great movie.
Good pull on that one.
Oh, holy shit.
Because
Yeah.
George totally obliges. He's like, I'm going to chop my friend's head off and I'm going to rip into that theater. And it's the moment where he gets like, the shirt is ripped, the chest and the biceps are out and glistening. He's got a sword in hand. He's got his other hand on the front of the motorcycle. And he's just slicing and revving. And there's at one point a demon gets his hand stuck in his spokes and he's like, I'm just going to fucking rev this shit even
yeah.
harder
That's a
and tear
great
your
one.
fucking fingers off.
It's so good. It straight up turns into an action film for this 5 minutes. It's,
While German heavy metal is playing
Yes.
on the soundtrack too. It's so sick.
and then immediately after, a helicopter crashes through the theater. Like, it's
God
just-
damn.
it's insane.
That's like a go to Vegas. What are the odds someone guesses what's going on at the end of this movie? You would never in a million years guess that a helicopter is going to fall through the ceiling of this theater.
Yeah, it would be like, this would be just the dream of a 13-year-old boy. Like, they'd be like,
Yeah.
and then this happens, and then a helicopter crashes through, and then he gets a katana, and then he gets a dirt bike. It's awesome.
Exactly.
It's great.
With the motorcycle and the sword though, they're in the lobby as if like when sometimes if you go to a movie they'll have like a costume from the movie there or something
Yeah,
like that.
a promo.
Is this something from the movie they were watching? Because if so, the direction that film had to have taken and that we just didn't get to see.
They didn't get far enough in for
No.
us
They
to
do
know
have,
for sure.
I will say this: they do have. They ride in on motorcycles in the movie, but that's, I think, the only
yeah.
thing.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, you're right. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe it's the same bike though. Oh, that's funny. So at some point along the way, they must find like Nostradamus's magic fucking sword that he
His
has.
katana.
Yeah, that time Nostradamus went to Japan, got that katana. It was fucking cool.
Oh my god, I love the movies.
Look, they did say that Nostradamus was the 16th century rapper, so maybe he got really into like Wu-Tang or something. I don't
Hell
know.
yeah, dude.
Dude, these are good connections.
Welcome
we
back
pull
to
Knight Rider and
Nostradamus's
Wu-Tang?
37th chamber.
I love the helicopter bit specifically because obviously it comes out of nowhere, but obviously it's also a really impressive technical just effect and stunt. Like that thing really rips
man.
through. The guy is dead in the helicopter, and it reminds me of, because it's Dawn of the Dead, right? Of the three in the movie that has a bit where they try to take off from the apartment in the helicopter
I think
and they
so,
try to
yeah.
get away.
That's Dawn,
so like
yeah.
that's what it kind of reminds me of, but they don't use the helicopter in full. They use like a grapple hook that he sort of like jerry rigs.
I guess
out
it
of
was
the helicopter.
Batman's fucking helicopter. We have this grappling hook out of nowhere.
I actually played it back to be like, I couldn't tell if he like makes this really quick or if there was just something they just, you know, they grapple their way to the rooftop, but that's where they find the promotional man from the subway in his half mask, and that's where they get to impale him with that piece of rebar in a very Fulci-esque eyeball violence fashion.
It is it just for like the horrific accuracy of it. It's two pieces of rebar.
Yeah.
I think it's like one through the eye and one through his like cheekbone. It is all this guy was trying to do was get people to come to a free movie screening.
Yeah, and you could argue he was pretty good at it in a way. You know, there was like 50 solid asses in those seats.
I gotta
But
say,
Well, I was just the one last thing I was going to say about this was I love that it also is kind of like a romantic moment. There's a romantic struggle as they're both trying to push this guy's head towards the rebar, like together, man. And
it brings people together. Fulci always said that.
And that's when I knew I wanted to marry your father.
Yeah, exactly.
As we push that promotional man's face into the piece of loose rebar sticking out. You never know when you're going to fall in love, kids.
Oh man, when that
not that they get to fall in love for very long, because they run into those streets.
Yeah.
They see that the full demon zombie apocalypse is all over the streets of Berlin. It's spreading throughout the world. Cars are on fire. There's, light shining through all the smoke and demon hordes just chasing people around the streets. And they end up picked up by a family of what looks like quasi-survivalists, like in a Jeep.
Yeah.
And
like a 10-year-old with a shotgun, which is awesome.
That's what I love about this. Can we
detail.
just for a second just talk about the timing of everything here? Because if the source of all this madness was this movie that was played at this haunted theater and the demons got out and we've spread or whatever, I mean, we're talking what, 2 hours tops this has been going on? And these people are already like, we're driving north. We heard there's a new life up there. And I was like, you can't even watch the fucking Godfather in the time that has passed, right? What do you've already given up on society?
Yeah.
Good
That
God.
is hilarious. Yeah.
And the little girl's already totally proficient in, or it's a little boy and a teenage girl and they're both proficient in firearms. The father looks like chef and humanitarian Jose Andreas, and they're just yeah, we're finding a new way to live.
It is hilarious
that father had them prepared. He was waiting for this day.
So prepared that as soon as the girl turns into a demon, one of the children just shotguns her.
No hesitation, dude.
No hesitation.
Which is a crazy moment because the credits hit before it does that.
Dude,
so
what an indignity.
It totally leads you to be like, oh, movie's done, close, and then it's no, the credit, she's gonna turn and the kid gets to shotgun her, and then the guy who just fell in love with her gets to be like, well, I guess this is my life now.
Yes.
I guess I'm going with the weird family in a Jeep with guns.
What's really interesting too is they set off that kind of a new genre spin, they're going to go on an adventure, and the music even has kind of an adventurous tone to it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she gets killed and they do the classic credits of just watching them leave, it turns into a more traditional soundtrack for this film, and it felt very purposeful in that way. It's a cool psych out. I really like it.
It's also a bit of bullshit because George, during the motorcycling, definitely gets his arm cut by one of these things.
I think he does. Yeah,
and he's got the visible arm wound.
He should have been the one to turn.
And you're just waiting for it the whole time. And then it's wait a second, what? This woman's a demon? And then she shot off the truck and this dude's just riding away. And I was like, wait, you didn't see there was never any indication that Cheryl got into it in a dangerous way. Meanwhile, this guy's had an open gash for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He was look, it was a gash from something else, okay? It was from the helicopter.
All right, I didn't want to admit it. I accidentally sworded myself, okay? And the katana, I fucking got carried away and I hit myself with the katana.
I was decapitating and I was shoving it through chests, and I just, I swung it a little funny.
I was feeling sick, all right? I didn't want to admit it in the moment. Oh, I was wondering if Demons 2 starts with this family. Have any of you guys seen the second one? We're going to be watching it soon.
I was going to say, we are going to, by the time people have heard this, have already seen it. So this conversation is going to be bizarre. But we have not seen it yet, but we are going to be literally watching it tomorrow night as part of our live stream in the past.
I just can't wait to find out. Yeah, I just can't wait to find out if there's any carryover at all, or if they're just we're now in a city and there's demons. It's just a bigger location. Maybe
I can't remember. So. I've seen it before. It's high-rise horror. So instead of a movie theater, it's a big
high-rise apartment
building.
Those are fun. We've seen a couple of those. I feel like
Poltergeist 3, Evil Dead Rise is another one there.
Mm-hmm.
Poltergeist 3 is in a high-rise apartment?
Yeah. Tom Skerritt. It's the little girl goes to stay with other family.
Tom Skerritt is in that?
And Tom Skerritt's the uncle. Yeah, totally. It's not good.
Yeah. Josh, what was that? There was a Japanese horror movie about stuck in an apartment building as well.
Was it World Apartment Horror?
Yes. That had to have been it.
What a title.
World Apartment Horror. That had to have been it. Oh man.
Yeah, because that's the one by the director of Akira.
Okay, right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dark Water. That's
his-
another apartment.
Dark Water's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I really like Dark Water.
We will take your apartment horror recommendations because
Yeah.
that sounds like what Demons 2 is. I'm very curious about that. But that is it though for
that's Demons.
So if we're
There it
pivoting
is.
towards reductive rating round, this is a solid 4 for me. I enjoy this a lot. I think that this is obviously Sam Raimi is a lot more of an inventive directorial force, and you can absolutely tell that watching his movie. There is more of his voice and his personality behind it. But as far as someone who grew up on Mario Bava and Dario Argento movie sets doing his own like 80s metal riff on those guys, this is a lot of fun. And again, the meta movie theater setting, doing the closed circuit thing is fantastic. All of the Night and Dawn of the Dead stuff of turning this into like a zombie infection siege movie is great. All the Evil Dead gross out inspired body horror is really, really well done, and it doesn't go quite as full on with the stop motion and the puppetry and whatever animatronics they had in Evil Dead 2 and all of that, but the gore is absolutely disgusting. Just a gruesome parade of throats being slit and eyes gouged and scalps torn, and again, green slime zits popping and teeth popping out, like just some of the grossest imagery that you will see outside of like a Fulci movie. And I think that it's cool because for me, Argento was gross. Argento was never Fulci when it came to gore. This gets pretty close at times to full on doing that, but doing it in a more fun register. Fulci was also a little bit more unpleasant and existential about it. And this is, I wouldn't say necessarily pleasant, but the fact that it's also happening while a guy is riding a dirt bike and wielding a katana and decapitating their heads.
More
and
tongue-in-cheek.
Molly Crew is on the soundtrack. You're meant to have, I think, more fun with this as he's doing it. So it balances both things well. And all of the Argento crew who did the production design and the makeup and helped out with the lighting, and like it looks beautiful. The 4K especially looks so fucking good. And I had a lot of fun with this, and I wanted to shout out Willow, friend of the pod, who had a fantastic, I think, summation of it, which was, she was saying that it has it's perfect that it has a relatively straightforward heavy metal soundtrack because its pleasures of gore, monsters, and sex are appealing in the same simplistic, comforting ways of listening to a good driving riff and melodic guitar solo attached to a song about the devil.
Oh,
Let's
that's
go.
fantastic. Yeah.
And I was like, that is a good summation, I think, of like what Demons does. That's like there's stuff about it I think you would explain to someone. You're like, it's technically not doing anything you couldn't find in so many different other movies, but the 80-minute merging of all of it is done well, it's done fun, and it's just incredibly pleasing. Like, this is like a classic Halloween night, throw it on with the buddies in a way that like the original Evil Dead is like, could bring the vibes down. This one would do nothing but bring the vibes up, I think.
Yeah.
So can't recommend more.
No, I'm right there with you. It's getting the upgrade. I did strongly 3 at the last time, but it's a 4. I just think that this is kind of one of those movies where you like, when you're thinking of a perfectly satisfying B movie, this is it. Like, it's what you're looking for. You don't really have to think about much. You're just kind of getting like, it's like a gag reel of disgusting effects for the majority of it. The characterization is incredibly easy to follow. It's just fun. It really is. It's 85 minutes long. It's just everything that you want in a film like this, especially just something called Demons. You know, it delivers exactly what it's advertising. And I got to check out some of this guy's other stuff. Just the names themselves, like The Mask of Satan, Devilfish, Blast Fighter, You'll Die at Midnight. All of these just sound awesome through the titles alone. It's amazing to see like Bava, Argento, and Fulci kind of mixed in together a little bit. Obviously not done as well as all 3 of those guys, but just to see those different elements all put together is very just, it's going to satisfy me every single time. It's some of my favorite stuff when it comes to horror. And I think, the soundtrack. I love that when they go metal or mix like pop and synthwave with metal. It's so strange how many different directions this takes through its score and soundtrack. But that's kind of a thing of this time period that I really love, and it's very unique to it. It doesn't really repeat ever in decades to come. Like there's lines in here from some of the songs that are like darkness has the power and it has come to rule. You're gonna die. Just
Hell
stuff like
yeah.
that is awesome to throw into your horror movie. And there are a couple just fun little character moments prior to set up the characters that, again, are very simplistic. But one is like an old couple, and the old man is trying to say that he's taking his wife out, even though we know that this was a complimentary ticket. And then the other one was when he smacks the vending machine to get the girl a soda, and he's just like, you just need to have the right touch, stuff like that. I think it's just so cheesy and fun, and it belongs in this kind of a film. So have a great time. 4 out of 5
For you, Andrew.
Oh yeah, this is a 4 out of 5 affair for sure. I feel like if I did what my gut was to go like a full 5, that's just like sick fuck territory, and I don't know that I can be playing around with that. But it is a 4-star affair. It is a watch it with the friends around. It'll be so much fun. It's interesting, Lamberto Bava, a dude that was like, let me see if I can make a movie that's like kind of like my dad's and also kind of like my dad's friend. And like the synthesis is really interesting. And then, just him putting the metal sheen on it after that is fantastic. I'm a sucker for a movie theater picture. Anything from like this or like shit, like the Majestic even, you know what I mean? Just like, I love the vibes of like a movie theater and people watching a movie being captured in a movie. It's very cool. And just the
I was gonna say, friend of the pod Esther was just like, Goodbye Dragon Inn didn't hold up to the original.
Big time.
That's good.
I like that. This is just, it's such a joy. I will say, just for your the watch along that you're gonna do, or I guess technically has already happened in the listening timeline, but I did look up my review on Letterboxd for Demons 2 because I can't really remember much about it, just that it is high-rise horror. But so here we go. 2.5 stars. I wrote, sure is a lot of screaming in this movie.
That's good to know.
So
I'm sure
that.
all of our fellow watch-alongers will be very pleased with what's the noise coming out of their headphones.
I feel like, I feel like that was me saying like there's a more cacophonous vibe to the film than the first one.
Maybe that's more Sam Raimi-ish.
Yeah,
We'll find
big
out.
time. Yeah. But anyway, great movie. Go check it out. Oh, and the Synapse Films 4K. It's beautiful. Wanted to plug that again. They have
It
the
looks so good.
international cut and the US cut, so you can watch the international and get all the gross shit. None of the gross shit is cut out.
That's
worth
awesome.
it. Worth it.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for Demons there. And for this week's episode, that was once again Evil Dead 2 from 1987 and Demons from 1985. Thanks so much, Andrew, for joining us and for bringing these films with you. Once again, when can people see you guys in Vegas again?
Oh, so that is this August, so it's kind of coming up. We will be out there the 6th, 7th, and 8th talking Wrath of Khan, Generations, and First Contact. They are all separately ticketed events, so like I said, if you don't have a convention pass because you didn't have hundreds to, dare I say, $1,500 floating around, you can still come see us for way less than that. So you can come to Vegas. You don't have to go to the convention. You can go gamble, do a little sports book, get a little scuzzy, and then you can come see our show and just, laugh all of that away. WHMpodcast.com. That's where you can find more ticketing information. Yeah, it's our first con. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, please do. I have seen the We Hate Movies boys live before. They are a lot of fun. So please go if you have the chance, especially if you're local, and it's pretty easy to. For our listeners, we are going to be back in 1 week's time, where we are going to be, I'm pulling this up here. We're going, as Jamie alluded to, we're going 90s crime movie. Not only that, though, debuts by directors who would have pretty big careers and have new movies coming out this year. So we're going to be talking about first Little Odessa, which was the beginning of the career of James Gray, which I'm very excited to, because there's not too many opportunities on the show to talk about James Gray, and I love James Gray. Speaking of a New York filmmaker there.
Hell yeah.
And then we are going to be pairing that with the debut of a Danish man you may have heard of named Nicholas Winding Refn, whose film was actually a crime film called Pusher.
Yeah.
So we are talking about gangsters and drug dealing and murder and 90s, and honestly both of these guys doing it on pretty shoestring budgets. Basically guys who just wanted to be filmmakers in the 90s being like, hey, well, Tarantino made a movie. I can make a movie too. Yeah. And so that's what we're going to be talking about on the Patreon next week for the patrons. Again, patreon.com/Sleazoids podcast if you're interested. And then in 2 weeks' time, we are having a special guest back on to, funny enough, go Robert Altman mode again.
Oh, cool.
Because we just did it with the player. We're actually going to be talking about California Split. Speaking of gambling.
Ooh, yeah, great movie.
So we're going to talk about California Split, and I believe if I don't know why I didn't write this down, but I believe the pairing is supposed to be Busting by Peter Hyams with Elia Gould in it in that one.
Sick.
Speaking of the Altman connection,
I love Gould. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to be going 70s, 1974 mode. I think those are both 1974 movies. So Robert Altman, Peter Hyams, 1974. That's what we're going to be talking about in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for everything this week. Thanks so much for listening, as always, and keep it sleazy.
Keep it sleazy, everybody.